My wife secretly discovered my 100 billion yuan worth. A husband who is regarded as a loser by others, his wife is a director of a listed company. A flower stuck in cow dung. Leave this matter to me, what can a little teacher like you do? Chairman, the other party agreed to the acquisition conditions, it can't be that he really operated it. Chapter 1, Leave this to me. Jiangnan Province, Hua Country. At 7 p.m., Su Ziyi had prepared a full meal, waiting for his wife to return. Half an hour later, the door opened with a creak, and a graceful figure appeared in front of Su Ziyi. Darling, why are you home so late today? Is there something going on at the company? None of your business. Eat by yourself tonight. I don't have an appetite, she replied, turning toward the bedroom. Su Ziyi's wife, Yu Qian, was the owner of a small company. Su Ziyi didn't help at the company but had taken a job as a primary school teacher. Seeing her reaction, Su Ziyi felt a little disappointed. He followed her to the bedroom. Qian, tell me what's going on at the company. Maybe I can help. There's nothing to talk about. There's definitely something. Tell me. Yu Qian, irritated, quickly shook off Su Ziyi's hand and snapped, You're just a primary school teacher. What do you know about company matters? Even if I tell you, can you solve it? Bang. It was obvious, something had gone wrong at the company. They were from two completely different worlds, and they were never meant to be together. But their story started with their grandfathers. Their grandfathers had fought together in the war, and through their matchmaking, Su Ziyi and Yu Qian ended up together. Ding! A wish from their host has been detected. The double system is here to serve you. System. Su Ziyi was stunned for a moment, then excited. Although he was just a primary school teacher, he often read web novels, and in those stories, the protagonists usually got systems and then drove luxury cars, surrounded by beautiful women, and defeated all kinds of enemies. Su Ziyi never thought that a system from a web novel would actually appear in his life. System, introduce your functions. Host, I can help you with any problem. Any problem, no matter how big. Yes. After you defeat your opponents, you will inherit their assets. Is it really that amazing? Indeed. Everything you see will be stored in this system. Also, I will provide you with some temporary tools to assist you. But these tools are temporary and disappear after one use. There was a problem right in front of him that the system could solve. Getting Yu Qian to speak about the issue might be hard, so he decided to check her phone. Around 8:30 p.m., when Yu Qian went to take a shower, Su Ziyi opened her chat app. When he saw the messages timestamped for today, he finally understood what was going on. A while ago, Yu Qian had negotiated a big business deal worth millions. The transaction was supposed to be completed today. However, when she went to collect the payment, the other party transferred the business to another company. No wonder Qian looked so cold, Su Ziyi murmured. What are you doing? Why are you looking at my phone? Yu Qian's voice came from the door. In an instant, Yu Qian snatched the phone out of Su Ziyi's hands. Wife, so this is what happened at the company. Yu Qian saw that Su Ziyi had figured it out, so she stopped hiding the truth. That damn guy, I hate him. Yu Qian's eyes were filled with anger and helplessness. Su Ziyi could see that she had been working hard in the business world on her own. He walked over, held her in his arms, and said, Don't worry. I'll handle this for you. Yu Qian was a little surprised, realizing in that moment that nothing outside mattered as much as this warm embrace. Thank you for your kindness, I'm feeling better. Let's just forget about it. It's just business competition, I'm just a little upset. Su Ziyi didn't say anything. Even though Yu Qian said to let it go, he couldn't just forget about it. Hundreds of thousands were at stake, and he had to get that money back. Yu Qian didn't know what he was thinking. Is there still dinner? I'm a little hungry. Yes, I'll heat it up for you. I'll go myself. Yu Qian turned and walked away. Su Ziyi sat down in front of the computer and asked the system, is there a way to solve this? Host, please rest assured. A solution will appear tomorrow morning. Really? Of course. The system's abilities will become clearer to you in the future. Su Ziyi didn't know what kind of solution the system would provide, but he believed in it. After all, it was a tool that could help him reach the peak of life. A ray of sunlight streamed in through their window, and Su Ziyi woke up to find that Yu Qian was still asleep. Host, the system has a solution. To resolve this issue, there is only one step required. Suzy was a little surprised. The system spoke up before he even asked. This is really something, he thought, impressed. Really, one night and there's already a solution? Yes, host. Your wife's father had business conflicts with Karen Tech Company in the past. For this reason, they've been trying to undermine Yu Qian. I see, so that's what happened. So, what's the solution? There will be a business exhibition tomorrow in the city. You can take Yu Qian to attend, and then you can publicly read a document from the system panel. The other party will be ruined. Is it that powerful? Host, do your best. With a system like this, Suzy had no reason not to trust it. It was the ultimate tool that could help him reach the peak of life. Open the system panel. Opening the system panel for the host. The panel is now open. Suzy saw that there was indeed a document on the system panel. He smiled slightly, eagerly awaiting tomorrow. Coincidentally, tomorrow was their weekend, so he could go with her. At that moment, Yu Qian woke up and sat up in bed, looking a bit groggy. Suzy said, "Darling, there's a business exhibition in the city tomorrow. Can you take me with you?" Yu Qian's sleepiness vanished, and she looked at Suzy in surprise. What are you talking about? Even if it's the weekend, you don't know anything about business. What use would it be for me to bring you? That's why I want to go. I plan to quit my job as a primary school teacher and help you manage everything at the company. Hearing this, Yu Qian felt touched, but the business exhibition tomorrow was very important, and she couldn't afford to let anyone disturb her. Let us talk about tomorrow's things tomorrow. Suzy knew without thinking that Yu Qian wouldn't take him with her tomorrow. If I told you I could help you get back at that person, would you take me with you? Chapter 2, I have a plan. Yu Qian looked at him in confusion. She felt something was off with Suzy today, but she couldn't figure out exactly what was wrong. She touched Suzy's forehead and muttered, "You don't have a fever, so why are you talking nonsense?" "I'm not sick. I'm perfectly fine," Suzy impatiently brushed her hand away. "Well, if you're fine, then go to work. As for that matter, let us just forget about it," she said, turning to freshen up. Suzy didn't say anything else. Getting Yu Qian to trust him in such a short time might be difficult, so he had to resort to other methods. If it were something small, Suzy wouldn't even ask. But this was a deal worth millions, and with the evidence from the system and the chat logs he had seen last night, Suzy couldn't just let it go. Since he was going to act, he would go all their way. The other party had caused his wife to lose millions, he would make sure they lost billions in return. "Darling, it's fine if you're not willing to take me tomorrow, but let me tell you something, it's a method that will definitely help you vent your frustration." Yu Qian. What's going on with him? Why is he so concerned about this? Honestly, losing millions like that was enough to upset anyone. Clang. Yu Qian stared at Suzy and asked, "What's going on with you? Ever since you learned about that, you've been acting so strange. Don't scare me." "I told you, I'm perfectly normal," Suzy replied. Yu Qian fell silent for a moment. She didn't know what Suzy was up to, but maybe listening to his suggestion could give her some inspiration. The order worth millions was lost, and that was it. What she needed to do now was exact revenge to retaliate against the company that took her deal. "Really? You said you have a plan. What's your plan?" Suzy leaned in and whispered something in her ear. Upon hearing what Suzy said, Yu Qian looked at him in shock, searching his eyes for the answer she was looking for. Suzy nodded, confirming her suspicions. Seeing Suzy's confidence, Yu Qian was a little curious. She glanced at him, a bit surprised. When did he become so interested in business? "I'll consider your plan. But I still can't take you to the business exhibition tomorrow." "It's fine. As long as you use my method, it will be worth more than anything you could buy. By the way, I'll go get something for you," Suzy said, turning to walk away. In no time, he was back in front of Yu Qian. "Take this document. After the business exhibition tomorrow, you should read the contents to everyone in their hall. I believe the other party will suffer greatly." Yu Qian glanced at him, unsure if he was telling the truth. Suzy remembered what the system had said: once something was used, it would disappear. To be cautious, Suzy specifically instructed her not to open the document until the critical moment. Yu Chen took his instructions to heart. A day passed, it wasn't too long. The two of them worked all day and returned home, both sensing something was off between them. Honey, I think maybe you should come with me tomorrow after all, Yu Chen said. Why the sudden change of heart? Didn't you say this morning that you didn't want me to go? Suzy asked. Your method has been on my mind all day. Since it was your idea, maybe you should handle it. The effect might be better that way. Suzy smiled slightly and said, It's getting late. Go rest. I'll finish grading these papers and then get some rest. Okay, you get some rest too. The next day, the two woke up early. This was Suzy's first time attending a business event, and Yu Chen had carefully picked out a suit for him. The business exhibition was being held on the 24th floor of Longyu Hotel, and the two of them drove there. Sir, madam, this venue has been fully booked for today. Please find another place, the receptionist said. I'm Yu Chen from Yuan Tech, Yu Chen replied. Oh, please come in, the receptionist said, quickly allowing them through. Once inside the hotel, they saw many well-dressed people in the lobby. They were from various companies, some real financial magnates and others were young entrepreneurs just starting out. Suzy scanned the crowd and asked, Darling, has your rival arrived? Not yet. Hey, isn't he that Mr. Yu ahead? What's this? You're bidding today too? A man's voice called from behind them. They turned around, and Suzy noticed that Yu Chen's face changed before quickly disappearing. Suzy thought to himself, this man might be the one who stole Yu Chen's big order. Yu Chen greeted him coldly, Mr. Chen, you just secured a deal worth millions. Why would you bother with this bidding? Well, we're all entrepreneurs. If there's money to be made, I'll take it. I never gain weight, Mr. Chen replied nonchalantly. Suzy stepped in front of Yu Chen and said, Mr. Chen, that was a great line. As a businessman, we never turn down orders, big or small. The only thing we worry about is how many orders we get. Mr. Chen glanced at Suzy and asked, Ms. Yu, and who's this? I'm her husband, Suzy said with a smile. Ms. Yu, you're really dedicated. You even brought your husband along. Are you eyeing a specific contract? Mr. Chen asked with a smirk. Suzy smiled slightly and said, Mr. Chen, are you trying to probe into our business secrets? Rather than focusing on my wife and me, you should focus on yourself. Who knows if you'll leave this hotel in a clean and glorious way. With that, Suzy took Yu Chen's hand and turned to walk away. Watching them leave, Mr. Chen's eyes darkened, and he muttered, HMPH. I'll crush you both at this exhibition. Darling, now you see what the business world is really like? Suzy asked. We haven't even started fighting, just preemptively attacking their mindset. By the way, what's that man's name? Chen Liang. After this exhibition, his name will be Chenin. Yu Chen knew what he meant, but she was still a bit hesitant about Suzy's plan. Suzy reassured her, don't worry, after this exhibition, you'll be soaring to new heights. Yu Chen gave him a playful glance, clearly not believing such talk. Suzy noticed that there were many people bidding for the project. There were also plenty of security officers in the venue, which actually made things easier for him. Once he placed the document on the table, Chen Liang would have nowhere to run. We have half an hour before it starts. Let us grab a bite, Yu Chen said. Okay. Suzy suddenly realized that Yu Chen didn't have a single assistant with her. He asked, Wife, where's your secretary? Why didn't you bring her? She came here before me. She'll meet me here soon. You find a place to sit first, and I'll grab something to eat. Suzy didn't say anything else. With someone helping her, it would be easier to carry out the plan later. Chapter 3, the show begins. While waiting for the exhibition to start, Suzy noticed a sweet-looking woman approaching. Ms. Yu, everything's ready. If nothing goes wrong, we should be able to secure several projects from this exhibition, the woman said. Suzy glanced at her and asked, What? There are actually projects at a business exhibition? Yu Chen replied, Yes. While a business exhibition is primarily a networking event, many entrepreneurs also showcase projects from their companies. Of course, you can just be a spectator if you prefer. I see, Suzy nodded. At that moment, the sweet-looking woman asked, "Ms. Yu, who is this?" "He is my husband." "Honey, this is my secretary, Xiao Mi." "Hello." "Hello." Xiao Mi sized Suzy up. She had never seen him in the company, nor had Ms. Yu ever mentioned her husband before. Could it be that Ms. Yu's husband is from a major corporation? Is he here today to get revenge on someone? "How long have you been working under my wife, Xiao Mi?" Suzy asked. Xiao Mi paused for a moment and quickly responded, "Yes. I've been working under Ms. Yu ever since she started her business. It's been 4 years now." "4 years, huh? Later, I'll be presenting a project. You'll assist me while I do," Suzy said. "Of course, I will," Xiao Mi replied. Suzy then handed her a document and instructed, "Take this and prepare the necessary work." Yu Qian noticed that the document Suzy handed her was the same mysterious one from yesterday. She remembered Suzy saying that she shouldn't open it until the critical moment. Now seeing him pull out another one, she became a little curious. "Honey, you have another one of these documents?" "This one is a copy I made last night. The one you have is the original." "Oh, that makes sense. I was wondering why you stayed up so late last night." Suzy simply smiled. He had copied the document last night, even taking a risk. He remembered what the system had said, that once something was copied, the original would disappear. But now he realized that without seeing the original document's content with his own eyes, that wouldn't happen. At that moment, a man's voice echoed in the hall, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's business exhibition. We will divide the exhibition into 3 phases, a networking session, a showcase, and a trading session. I'm sure you're all excited. Let us get started." Suzy wasn't interested in the networking or showcase phases. His focus was on the trading session. "Darling, I'm going to walk around outside for a bit. When it's time for the trading session, have Xiao Mi call me," he said. "Okay." Suzy stood up and headed toward the door. Unfortunately, this was noticed by Chen Liang. He whispered to a man beside him and recalled the conversation with Suzy earlier by the door. He had a feeling something was going to happen, but he didn't know when. Suzy cast a sideways glance behind him and thought, "That guy's following me pretty closely." He had already noticed Chen Liang's actions earlier. As soon as Suzy stood up, Chen Liang had been staring in their direction. Clearly, the guy was trying to mess with them. "HMPH, you think you can take me down? I'm a man with a system." Time ticked by. An hour and a half later, Xiao Mi found Suzy. "Mr. Su, the trading phase is about to begin." "Let us go," Suzy said. He returned to their hall and saw Yu Qian talking to a woman. "Ms. Yu, have you found any projects you're interested in?" Yu Qian gave him a look, thinking this guy is really cheeky. "Xiao Yu, is this your husband?" Yu Qian replied. The woman looked Suzy over and thought to herself, since Yu Qian is a company CEO, her husband must be someone important. "Hello, I'm Cheng Yuan, a competitor of Yu Qian, as well as her close friend." "Hello." Cheng Yuan leaned in and whispered in Yu Qian's ear, "Xiao Yu, your husband seems a bit hard to get along with." "You're mistaken. He is very kind," Yu Qian replied. Suzy ignored them and turned to Xiao Mi, saying, "How familiar are you with the document I gave you earlier?" "I'm familiar with it." "But, Mr. Su." "Good. Now let us get to work." "Okay, understood." With that, Xiao Mi glanced at Yu Qian, her eyes full of confusion. Yu Qian didn't mind. If she didn't know about Suzy's plan, she would have stopped him. But now that she was aware of his strategy, she wouldn't interfere. "Go ahead and prepare," Yu Qian said. Xiao Mi hesitated for a moment but didn't say anything further. She didn't understand what Suzy was planning. How could a single document bring down an entire company? She certainly didn't believe it. Xiao Mi had read most of the documents Suzy gave her, but there were still parts she hadn't gotten through. She had no idea how Suzy was going to use this to take down Karen Technologies. "Honey, when are we going up?" Yu Qian's voice suddenly came. "With something this interesting, of course, we save it for the end. Don't worry, that guy will be in for a real downfall. You lost a few million, but I'll make sure he loses everything," Suzy said confidently. "Let us talk about that after you pull it off." I hate people who talk big but don't deliver, Yu Qian replied. All right, no problem. Suzy stepped up to the microphone as the crowd grew quiet. I am from Karen Technologies, specializing in app software development. In today's world, apps have become a major force on the internet, occupying a huge chunk of the digital market. Apps like messaging software and gaming software now occupy most people's phones. Recently, Karen Technologies has developed for software programs, 2 messaging apps and 2 gaming apps. Each of these programs is priced at 10 million each. The room erupted in surprise. This price was considered a steal in the market. Although some people didn't know much about the software industry, they knew a few tech experts. This price was undoubtedly an incredible bargain. Mr. Chen, I'm very interested in your messaging app. Let us find a time to discuss it further. I'm interested in your gaming apps, another voice said. Suzy was a little surprised at how quickly Chen Liang's products were being claimed. Darling, what was the thing that cost you millions? Suzy asked. A router, Yu Qian replied. No wonder the other party was after this deal. What are you trying to say? Nothing. Suzy noticed the subtle excitement on Chen Liang's face and thought, go ahead, enjoy it while it lasts. Soon, you'll be crying. Xiao am I, go prepare, Suzy instructed. Okay, but what are we selling? Reuters. Reuters. It's just a decoy. You'll see what we're really selling soon. Chapter 4, The Other Side of Paradise. The business exhibition was still going on. Xiao Mi went to inform the organizer, but learned that their products would not be exhibited until the end. Xiao Mi told Suzy and the others the truth about this matter. On display at the end. Isn't that great? That's true. The more miserable his death will be. Seeing Yu Qian and the others acting mysterious, Xiao Mi couldn't help but feel worried. She wondered if that $1 million order had caused Yu Qian to have a mental breakdown. On second thought, even if Yu Qian had a mental breakdown, her husband should be normal. The two of them must be brewing some secret. During this period, Chen Liang kept watching Suzy and the others. What Suzy said in front of him before was definitely not a casual remark. He stole Yu Qian's multi-million-dollar business right in front of her, and the other party will definitely retaliate. But after the other party said that, there were no more big moves. Could it be that they were just talking casually? On second thought, the other party had made 2 small moves, which might be a prelude to their action. Go check and see what Yu Qian is up to. After hearing this, Chen Liang's secretary nodded, stood up and walked away. After a while, he returned to Chen Liang's side. Mr. Chen, we have already checked it out. The other party just went to talk to the organizer about the auction items. That's all. Yes. Chen Liang absolutely did not believe that things would be so simple, but he had no evidence and it was difficult to judge whether this matter would affect him. As the exhibition progressed, major companies achieved a lot of results. Of course, Yu Qian also purchased a few products. These products have a great impact on her company. Although she cannot make a huge fortune, she can still make some money. Just when everyone thought the exhibition was over, Suzy walked to the stage and said, "Everyone, I'm from Tingyuan Company. I have a product worth hundreds of millions, and I think you are all very interested in it." Everyone was a little surprised to see this. They thought the exhibition was over and were preparing to pack up and go back. But I didn't expect that the best part was yet to come. Seeing this, Chen Liang had a bad feeling that Yu Qian and the others might be about to take action. The document in my hand contains the fruits of a company's labor, including its annual quarterly financial reports, the products they are developing, the company's internal secrets, and the allocation of personnel. It is all clearly recorded. A company? No one could have imagined that the last person to take the stage actually wanted to sell a company. Ting Yuan, do you want to sell the company? Yes. I heard that Karen Technology snatched away a multi-million-dollar business from you a few days ago. Are you having trouble cash flow? Are you thinking of selling the company? Chen Liang breathed a sigh of relief when he saw this. He thought the other party wanted to say something, but it turned out to be just this. Everyone, it's not Ting Yuan who's selling the company, it's another company. Another company? Who is that company? Could it be your relative's company? Chen Liang laughed. Suzy smiled and said, I won't keep you in suspense. That company is none other than Karen Technology. As soon as these words were spoken, the whole audience was in an uproar. What? Is this true? Has Karen Technology been reduced to an auction company? It shouldn't be like this. Karen Technology gained the most this time, how could it be reduced to the level of an auction company? Or is he pretending? Listening to the discussions around him, Chen Liang slammed the table and said angrily, "Nonsense, my Karen Technology is in the period of appreciation, how could it be reduced to an auction company?" That's right. Even if the financial strength is not good now, Karen Technology will not be reduced to an auction company. I think Ting Yuan must have come out to ease the tense atmosphere for us. I thought Fuji Yuan wanted to say something, but it turns out it's just this. What a waste of my time. Suzy was not angry when he saw this, and said, "Everyone, you may not know yet, Karen Technology is just bluffing. Don't be fooled by their impressive appearance, they are just strong on the outside but weak on the inside." After hearing this, Chen Liang said angrily, "Asshole, you keep slandering me, be careful or I will sue you." Okay. I'm waiting for you to sue me, but you can tell me after you walk out of this door. Suzy paid no attention to Chen Liang's anger. On the contrary, his anger grew even stronger. In the past, he didn't care about the company's affairs, but he didn't know that Yu Chen had been under such great pressure in the company. Most of this pressure comes from Karen Technology. If he dares to suppress Yu Chen, then he can forget about continuing to run the company. Chen Liang was a little angry and was about to rush up and beat Suzy. At this time, his phone rang. "What's up? Mr. Chen, this is bad. The company was suddenly suppressed by a mysterious financial group. Our stock price suddenly dropped by 40%. The companies that used to cooperate with us also suddenly cut off cooperation with us. What? Mr. Chen, you need to think of a solution quickly. If this continues, the company will go bankrupt." Chen Liang couldn't believe what he heard. What was going on? His company had billions of assets. Even if someone wanted to mess with him, it couldn't have turned out like this so quickly. And this happened without any warning. Could it be Yu Chen's doing? How could she be so capable? Everyone, I have this document in my hand. If you are interested, I can read it out. I think it will be very interesting to you. When everyone saw Chen Liang answering a phone call, he just stood there without taking any action, and they didn't know what news he had heard. They were somewhat curious about the contents of the document, and they still remembered what Suzy had just said. "Tell me about Karen Technology. I'm very interested." "So do we." Seeing this, Suzy said, "Okay. Karen Technology Company is currently engaged in software development. From the beginning to now, it has had gains and losses, so it is still a small company. Some time ago, he offended someone from a mysterious consortium and was suppressed by the mysterious consortium." After saying that, Suzy glanced at Chen Liang and continued. "Not only that, when Chen Liang was young, he accidentally killed someone and fled abroad for fear of surgery. He did not return to China until a few years ago." What? Chen Liang actually has a criminal record. Is this true? Chen Liang is actually a murderer. I have business dealings with him. How blind I am. Bang. At this moment, the door was pushed open and several men walked in. Two of the men were in police uniforms and the rest were probably from the bank. Suzy was a little surprised when he saw this. This system was really awesome and acted so quickly. Although he didn't know how the system notified the police and the bank, the speed of the service was simply amazing. Chapter 5, Double Rewards from the System. Suzy didn't know what method the system used, but he was too lazy to care. "Mr. Chen Liang, you have already owed the bank 20 billion due to your uncontrolled purchase of products. Please return all the money immediately, otherwise the bank will seal up your company. Chen Liang, you are absconding because of your crime. You will spend your next life in jail. Mr. Chen, please speak, otherwise this bank will enforce it." Chen Liang had not yet recovered from his shock. He totally couldn't believe what had happened. A company with billions of assets went bankrupt in just 1 minute. This speed was like an adult beating a child, leaving him without any ability to fight back. Impossible. This is something that is made up out of nothing. I don't believe it. Chen Liang tried to resist but was pinned to the ground by two policemen. At this time, Suzy came to Chen Liang and said, "This is what happens when you offend my wife. You will spend your next life in jail." Chen Liang glared at Suzy and asked, How did you do that? Do you want to know? I won't tell you. You bastard, you will die. Suzy ignored this guy. He was about to leave when the system's voice came. Host, congratulations on acquiring Karen Technologies project and all its assets. Ding dong. At this time, Suzetti's cell phone rang. He took it out and looked at it, and was so surprised that he was speechless. On June 27, 2020, the commercial bank with the last number 4369 transferred 200,000,000 to your bank card with the last number 7962. Your current balance is 200,006,273.9. Wow. Suzy couldn't believe that the reward was so generous. This is just one of them. The system just said that Karen Technology's project also belongs to his account. Suzy didn't know how profitable those projects were, but since Chen Liang had more than 2 billion in savings, they must be very profitable. Host, I will place the Karen Technology project in the system warehouse in the afternoon. Oh. At this time, Chen Liang was dragged away by the police like a dead dog, but everyone in the hall was still in shock. If they hadn't heard it with their own ears, he couldn't have imagined it was true. Is this true? Is this real? Or am I dreaming? It seems to be true. I never thought that Chen Liang would owe the bank 20 billion. What surprised me even more was that he was a murderer. Yeah, you can't judge a person by his appearance. I didn't expect him to be such a person. So, society is a place where we can see the good and evil in people's hearts, and it is also a place to temper our will. A multi-billion-dollar company was brought down so easily. I didn't expect Ting Yuan company to be so powerful. Could it be that he is the boss of some big conglomerate? That shouldn't be the case. I know Ting Yuan. He's not the boss of a big conglomerate, just a small company. How is it possible? How can a small company bring down a company with assets worth billions? And so quickly? I think that Mr. Yu from Ting Yuan company must have had some shady dealings with someone from some financial group, so he was able to take over Karen Technology so easily. Seeing this, Yu Chen walked to the stage and said, "Everyone, it is understandable that you have such thoughts. However, I, Yu Chen, am worthy of heaven and earth, worthy of my parents, and worthy of my husband. What you are talking about is simply nonsense. Then how do you explain this? Yes, how do you explain this? Everyone, Karen Technology and my Ting Yuan have been suppressing Ting Yuan in business. My husband started secretly investigating the intelligence of Karen Technology a few years ago. That's why we were able to defeat Karen Technology in a short period of time." Oh, so that's what happened. This is a woman, she is really not easy to mess with. Yu Chen said, "Everyone, I, Yu Chen, am not the kind of person you think. My partners who have cooperated with me all know who I am. Once again, I also welcome everyone to come to our Ting Yuan for cooperation." Everyone just laughed at what Yu Chen said. Some people have business dealings with Yu Chen and are relatively familiar with her personality. This exhibition ended with such a novel ending. Everyone gained something at the exhibition, but the biggest gain belonged to Suzy. Not only did he get 2 billion, but all of Karen Technology's projects became his products. Thinking of this, Suzy came to Yu Chen and said, "Wife, do you want a surprise?" Yu Chen glanced at him and asked, "Don't be so mysterious. Just say what you want to say." Seeing this, Suzy said, "Your attitude is very annoying." Yu Chen was stunned for a moment, then said, "What surprise? I'll tell you this afternoon." "Are you kidding me?" "Har har, just kidding, let's go to a fancy restaurant to celebrate." "Okay." She should definitely celebrate today, as she has defeated the competitor who had been suppressing her. From now on, she will have one less strong rival in company matters. Before leaving, Yu Chen gave some instructions to Xiao Mi, asked her to handle the next matters, and told her to call her as soon as anything happened. After Xiao Mi wrote down everything Yu Chen told her, she watched the two of them leave Longyu restaurant. On the other side, the moment Suzy stepped out of the restaurant, something suddenly came to his mind. The system once said that every time he solved a problem, he would get double the reward. He had just settled one matter, and the system only rewarded him 2 billion, and nothing else. Is Chen Liang's only fortune this small? This shouldn't be the case. How can a person with billions of assets only have 2 billion in assets? System, did you embezzle my things? Host, it's unfair. What do I need those things for? I used my ability and only found this much information. Really not greedy. Absolutely not. Suzy had no choice but to do so seeing this. He didn't expect that Chen Liang was actually a weak person. He thought that guy was very rich. What he didn't know was that Chen Liang was a frugal person. As a boss, he lived in a dilapidated 2-story house and walked to work every day. I guess Chen Liang never thought that the wealth he had worked hard to accumulate for several years would be gone in an instant. Chapter 6 Pretend I'm Your Big Brother. After a while, the two arrived at a famous local Western restaurant and ordered 2 steaks. Don't you have a secret? Tell me. Yu Chen asked curiously. I have 2 billion. Suzy said seriously. Yu Chen laughed immediately. Although her husband surprised her today, it had nothing to do with the 2 billion. He is just an elementary school teacher after all. If it weren't for the relationship between their elders, they would never be together in their entire lives. Don't laugh. Suzy said helplessly. Eat and shut up. Yu Chen said helplessly. 2 billion. She still has 20 billion. Suzy was helpless. Since you don't believe it, there's nothing I can do about it. I've already told you anyway. With a bang. A bald man bumped into the corner of Suzy's table, and the red wine on the side spilled all over him. You dare to block my way? Do you know who my grandfather is? The bald man said angrily. Suzy was speechless. I haven't even blamed you for spilling the wine. You bumped into us by yourself. If you were wrong, what does it have to do with us? Yu Chen said impatiently. Am I wrong? You are the first person in this area who dares to speak to my brother Guang like this. The bald man slammed the table. The noise attracted the attention of other people in the Western restaurant. A waiter wanted to come and coordinate, but was stopped and told not to meddle in other people's business. Brother Guang is a big and strong man with a murderous aura. Even if Yu Chen is right at this moment, she can't say anything. And her husband is so cowardly that he doesn't even dare to fart. Brother Guang's eyes suddenly fell on Suzy. At first glance, you can tell that he is a coward and has no courage. Then he shouted, Waiter, can you enter and leave such a high-end place dressed like this? What can a bumpkin know? Suzy looked slightly angry. But he concealed it well. Automatically generating solutions for the host, the solution was generated successfully. Suzy took a quick look. Pretending to be Boss Guang's friend, Li Zong. He will ask for something from himself. Brother Guang, what do you think is considered not unfashionable? He asked slowly. Do you understand suits? Brother Guang said condescendingly. But I think you're talking nonsense. This Western restaurant doesn't explicitly require you to wear a suit. Brother Guang, are you just tying yourself up in knots? Suzy snorted coldly. It's not just Brother Guang at this moment. Even Yu Chen was shocked. When did my husband become so tough? What did you say? As he said that, Brother Guang kicked over the table. With a clang. There were pieces of broken glass all over the floor. Bursts of screams came from inside the Western restaurant. The situation worsened. The manager had to show up. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he really didn't want to face this violent maniac. Brother Guang, what's going on? The manager stepped forward cautiously. Said with a flattering look. It's none of your business, get away from me. Brother Guang roared. The manager stopped immediately and dared not move forward. It's not that he, a restaurant security guard, can't beat the other person alone. But Brother Guang's background is too big. He didn't dare to do anything at all. Boy, you pissed me off today, but for the sake of the beauty, I'll give you 2 options. 1, your wife stays with you and you go away. 2, I'll beat you up and take you away in an ambulance. The bald man said coldly. Suzy narrowed his eyes slightly. Whether in the past or now. His wife is his absolute Achilles heel. No doubt about it. I choose the 3rd option. You kneel down and apologize. He slowly stood up and confronted. The whole audience was silent. Suze, let's go. Yu Chen gently pulled him and said. To be honest, she was panicking. She was happy to see that her husband was tough, but judging from the manager's reaction just now, this bald guy seemed to be no simple person. The manager hurriedly walked in front of Brother Guang. I'm telling you, kid, don't be shameless. It's your blessing that Brother Guang likes your wife, he said repeatedly. He was simply scared. This kid obviously doesn't have much ability. I'm the best at talking. If they piss off Brother Guang, their Western-style restaurant will be turned upside down. So, your wife's place should be quite lively, Su Ziyi said cryptically. The manager was so angry that he was speechless. Boy, you forced me to do this. Brother Guang grabbed Su Ziyi's collar and was about to attack. Wait a minute, aren't you curious about who I am? Su Ziyi still said calmly. I don't care who you are, Brother Guang said irritably. Your brother Leopard hasn't contacted me for a while, Su Ziyi said calmly. Everything is as expected. Brother Guang paused, but his hand was still holding Su Ziyi's collar. Su Ziyi hooked his finger at him. He could only put his ear forward. It's just a couple of drinks with others, what's the big deal? The manager muttered to himself. Leave someone here early. The problem has been solved long ago. But he didn't notice that Brother Guang's eyes gradually became filled with fear. He immediately slapped back. There was a loud bang, and the sound echoed throughout the restaurant. How come it's not a big deal? Let me tell you, this is a very serious problem, Brother Guang said in an extremely serious tone. The manager fell to the ground, covering his face, and nodded quickly. I'm afraid he'll hit me again. I saw Brother Guang extending his hand towards Su Ziyi again. He bent over and patted Su Ziyi's collar, saying, Brother, I was blind just now. I apologize to you and my sister-in-law. Please don't hold it against me. The people in the store were so shocked that they were speechless. Someone who even dares to beat up the manager. Are you actually afraid of this insignificant man in front of you? I just said, how are you going to apologize? Su Ziyi said calmly. Brother Guang gritted his teeth and fell to his knees with a thud. I'm sorry, bro. I was wrong, he said loudly. Although he felt ashamed and angry at the moment, he did not hate Su Ziyi much. After all, he was the one who caused the trouble first. But there is a fire in my heart. So he looked at the manager beside him. What are you looking at? Come here and kneel down, he suddenly growled. The manager was startled and stood up and knelt. Now he knew what regret was, if only he had been more respectful to the young man. Brother Guang wouldn't he dare to do this to himself. That's enough, get up. Remember the lesson, and don't be too aggressive when you do things outside next time, Su Ziyi said experiencedly. Yu Chen looked at him in shock. Is this guy really not crazy? Unexpectedly, the bald man stood up and nodded repeatedly. Brother, actually I want to ask you for a favor. Brother Guang smiled awkwardly. Explain. Can you talk to Brother Bao for me? I know I was wrong last time. Can you? Brother Guang said in annoyance. Although Su Ziyi didn't understand a word. But he still nodded very deeply. Thank you, bro. There is 1 million in this card. It's my gift to you. Brother Guang laughed immediately. Su Ziyi. This isn't a good idea. Then, he put the card in his pocket. Chapter 7 You must be pretending to be rich. Seeing that Su Ziyi easily subdued the domineering bald man with just a few casual words, Yu Chen looked at Su Ziyi differently. She always thought that her husband was just an ordinary elementary school teacher. After the bald man left, Yu Chen asked Su Ziyi in a low voice, why did he suddenly give in? Are you with some messy person? Su Ziyi glanced at Yu Chen and knew that his wife was a serious businessman who didn't like to associate with messy people, so he said, nothing, actually he is the parent of one of my students. I heard him talk about something when we were chatting, so I just borrowed his name. Yu Chen stroked her chest and said, I was so scared. I thought you had something to do with those people. Su Ziyi was also at a loss whether to laugh or cry. You didn't feel anything when your husband, had 2 billion, but you reacted so strongly when he had something to do with some gangster. The manager of the restaurant over there saw that Su Ziyi seemed to be more powerful than the bald man, so he came over with a smile and said, the 2 distinguished guests have come to our store, which is also a great honor for our small store. I will give you a 50% discount on this order today. Are you satisfied? Su Ziyi looked down on such people. It was because of such people that the bald man was so domineering, so he said coldly, are we the ones who need your discount? At this time, the shop owner squeezed over and pushed the manager aside, thinking to himself, this manager is too narrow-minded. He even dared to accept the bald man's 1 million, so why would he care about your 50% discount? Looks like we need to find a new manager. People at this level don't care about small gains. If you want to give face, you must give enough. No, no. I'm the manager of this store. I'm sorry for scaring you. I'll waive the bill and give you a platinum card. You're welcome to come next time. Suzy knew very well that the best way to attack someone was to isolate him. Since he wanted to attack the manager, he naturally had to accept the owner's smile. Since the store manager is so polite, I won't mind it. I just hope that your store can strictly control the recruitment of personnel in the future. In the tertiary industry, service quality is the key. The store manager nodded hurriedly in response. To be honest, Yu Chen and Suzy have been married for so long, but she has never seen Suzy be so domineering. She originally thought that Suzy was just a useless scholar. Today also refreshed Yu Chen's perception of her husband. So in Yu Chen's eyes, Suzetti's image couldn't help but become tall and wise. However, Yu Chen still didn't quite believe that Suzy had 2 billion. When could an elementary school teacher have so much money? Besides, none of the elders in the Su family do business, so how could they suddenly have such a large sum of money? Yu Chen just thought it was a white lie told by Suzy to reassure her. Thinking back to how Suzy prepared 3 meals a day and took care of her meticulously, her eyes looking at Suzy became even softer. As the saying goes, money is a man's courage. Suzy has money, 2 billion at that, so he is naturally bold and courageous. His usual cautious and slightly cowardly image is completely gone. Yu Chen just thought that she had ignored Suzy too much in her daily life, so she didn't realize his charm. It turned out that he was a treasure husband. This meal boosted our relationship more than all the previous ones combined. Originally, Yu Chen was only focused on her career and love affairs. Since she didn't expect too much for the sake of filial piety, she suddenly discovered Suzetti's goodness. After finishing the meal, Yu Chen gave Suzy an apologetic smile and said, "The company signed a lot of contracts today, and Xiao Mi and the others were too busy. I took the time to come and have dinner, which is considered a break from my busy schedule." In the past, when Yu Chen had to work overtime at the company, she would just say, "I'm going to work." Sometimes she would come back very late without even a phone call, which made Suzy reheat the prepared meal over and over again. Suzy was already very satisfied with this progress today. As a human being, you can't be greedy and you have to proceed step by step. Go ahead. If you have to work overtime again, I'll bring you food. Yu Chen hesitated for a moment and then nodded in agreement. In the past, Yu Chen didn't allow Suzy to go to her company. Many people thought that Yu Chen, the beautiful female boss, was still single. Yu Chen went to the company, while Suzy went home to buy groceries. Suzy was humming a little tune along the way, taking out his mobile phone from time to check the balance, and he felt very happy. When we got to the market, we bought as many vegetables as we could, such as chrysanthemum bones and bamboo shrimps, which we would not have dared to buy before, without even bargaining. We were really rich. However, having a lot of money also brings a negative effect, which is that you buy too much and it is really a bit difficult to carry it. Suzy was thinking about whether he should hire a housekeeper to do the groceries and cleaning for him tomorrow. He was already worth 2 billion, and if he had to do all these things himself, wouldn't that be a loss of face for the billionaires? Just as he was thinking this, there was suddenly some noise ahead. He took a quick look and saw that one of the people in the circle was someone Suzy knew. He was a thin middle-aged man with an elegant temperament, who was being held tightly by a burly vegetable vendor. "Old Cheng, what's going on?" Suzy squeezed in and asked. The middle-aged man's surname was Cheng. He was alone with his daughter who was still in junior high school. He was not in good health. He was very handsome, the kind of elegant middle-aged scholar, and was very popular. When he first moved in, many single women came up to him, some of them were only a few years older than his daughter. But time had passed, and everyone left. First, Lao Cheng had kidney disease, and no matter how handsome a man was, it would not work if he was only good-looking but not practical. Second, Lao Cheng was too straightforward, and he had no idea how to deal with women, which was very boring. But he was a very nice person, and he and Suzy were both bookish, so they had similar temperaments. They would say hello to each other when they came in and out, so they became familiar with each other. Before old Cheng could say anything, The vegetable vendor, with a face full of flesh and a crooked word tattooed on the back of his thick hand, started yelling. He stole vegetables. Someone nearby couldn't help but say, what they picked up were rotten leaves. Can this be considered stealing vegetables? Suzetti's eyes turned and he understood what was going on. Old Cheng was in poor health and could not do any work. He could only do odd jobs, such as picking up cardboard and bottles to sell. I heard that he occasionally wrote some short articles, but I guess the royalties were not much. The conditions at home are indeed not good. But I didn't expect that I would have fallen to the point of picking vegetable leaves in the market. Although Cheng Xiaoyu, the daughter of Old Cheng, was not in Suzetti's class, Suzy often saw her. She was a little beauty, but her family was too poor. She wore school uniform all day long. She didn't have good food, so she was very thin and her hair was a little dry and yellow. Yu Qian felt sorry for the child, and would ask Xiaoyu to come to her house for dinner from time to time. When she bought fruits, milk, etc., she would find an excuse to ask Suzy to bring some to the child. Chapter 8. Let's go rescue people together. So when Suzy heard about this situation, he immediately became angry. You still won't let go? The vegetable vendor looked Suzy up and down. Although Suzy dressed very neatly today to support Yu Qian, he didn't have any high-end clothes and was only wearing cheap clothes. Even though I have 2 billion on me, doesn't this mean I haven't had the chance to spend it? Who the hell are you? The crotch of your pants is not zipped up, exposing you. Before the vegetable vendor could finish his words, Suzetti's eyes turned cold and he slapped him in the face. Bang! The entire noisy vegetable market suddenly became quiet and the air seemed to freeze. No one expected that the seemingly gentle Suzy would slap someone in the face when they disagreed with something. After a while, the spectators began to buzz and discuss. Young people are too impulsive. Fatty Zhang has been in society before. That's right. If they fight, he's no match for Fatty Zhang. Before the vegetable vendor could get angry, Suzy had already taken out his wallet and pulled out a thick stack of Chairman Mao's portraits and scattered them in front of the vegetable vendor. The money for the vegetable leaves and the slaps is here. It's up to you whether you want to take them or not. The vegetable vendor touched his face, feeling that his brain capacity was not enough. What's going on? He wanted to lose his temper, but the flying money in the air made his eyes red. He had the power of money. But if he just let them go like this, where would he put his face? At this time, a few people who wanted to take advantage were secretly picking up the money. The vegetable vendor finally came to his senses and shouted angrily, "Put it down for me. This is my money. Who can prove that the money is yours? Did he agree when you called him?" The vegetable vendor pointed at the red palm print on his face and said, "See? This is." Amid the roar of laughter from the crowd, Suzy had already walked away with Lao Cheng. "Xiaosu, you're wasting so much money." Old Cheng is used to being stingy and feels sorry for the money flying all over the place. "It's okay, just think of it as buying medicine for him. Besides, it's my money, and he will feel uncomfortable holding it." Suzy was grinning, but he was already prepared to give the vegetable vendor a try. How could he take his money so easily? He had to lay the groundwork first. Old Cheng still felt a little distressed. Suzy was very familiar with Lao Cheng. Once when he went to his house, he saw some economic notes written by Lao Cheng, which were quite insightful. Logically speaking, such a person should not have ended up in such a miserable state. As long as Old Cheng didn't tell him the reason, Suzy had no way of knowing. But now Suzy has 2 billion, but he can consider giving a part of it to Lao Cheng to manage and see the effect. Does he really want to let the 2 billion lie in the bank and earn interest? It's rare to find a big fish with a fortune of 2 billion just by relying on the system to seize other people's property. On the way, Suzy bought some cooked food. He made the excuse that his wife was not at home and he felt bored eating alone, so he forced Lao Cheng to go home for dinner. After a few bites of the food, Lao Cheng said, "Don't worry, Xiaosu. I know you are standing up for me. Otherwise, it would be so embarrassing to call the police. I will pay you back, but it will take a little longer. Brother is particular." Suzy didn't point it out, making Lao Cheng feel that he owed him something, which made it easier for him to speak up later. After the dishes were served, Suzy brought up the topic, "Brother, if I had a few $1,000,000 to spare, how do you think it would be best to manage it?" "Xiaosu, I have done some research on this, please forgive me for my superficial opinion. Perhaps because he was talking about his own interests and hobbies, old Cheng, who was usually rather silent and needed Su Zed's guidance to speak just now, suddenly started talking incessantly. So, whether it is suitable or not depends on each individual's situation. It has hit the bottom, Lao Cheng, what do you think? I don't understand this, can I entrust you to help me operate it? In terms of remuneration, the base salary is 5,000, and I will give you 10% of the profit. What do you think? When Lao Cheng heard this, he quickly shook his head and refused. No, I'm just talking on paper. If I lose money, I can't afford to pay even if you sell me. Su Zi said with a half smile, Old Cheng, you owe me several thousand yuan. With your current situation, when can you pay me back? If you come to help me, I can pay it back in an instant. Besides, if you can persist, Xiaoyu is in the period of growth. Old Cheng was silent for a while, then raised his head and said, You are right. I feel sorry for my daughter. How about this? I will take 5% of the profit and I don't want the basic salary. Su Zi smiled and raised his glass, saying, Happy cooperation. After dinner, Old Cheng, who helped Su Zi sort out his financial account, fell into deep thought when he saw the 100 million yuan in the account. Su Zi also smiled secretly. What would happen to Old Cheng if the 2 billion was transferred in? Finally, Lao Cheng said, Technology companies are making so much money now. Well, Lao Cheng thought that Su Zi's money belonged to his wife Yu Qian. This idea is understandable. After all, Su Zi's main job is just an elementary school teacher. After dealing with Lao Cheng and achieving a win-win situation, Su Zi now thought of the vegetable vendor. A man with a system can only bully others, so how can he be bullied by others? By this time, the system had already processed the vegetable vendor's information and sent it to Su Zi. There is no other way. This fat man has too many flaws. The system has optimized 12 plans. The host can choose for himself. When Su Zi heard this, he was also happy. This fat guy deserved bad luck. After retrieving the information provided by the system, Su Zi's face darkened. He originally thought that the fat black man was just a street thug who bullied the weak and feared the strong, but he didn't expect that he had done so many bad things. Now Su Zi could take ruthless action without any psychological burden. So he turned on the computer and used the one-time hacking tool provided by the system to transmit all the negative information about Fatty Zhong one by one. Fat Zhong, the vegetable vendor, went home happily. Although he was slapped in the face today, he made more than 3,000 yuan for nothing. This kind of thing happened 8 times a day, and he didn't think it was too much. It was just a slap in the face, right? For a tough guy like him, it doesn't matter if he gets punched or kicked a few times. As long as he has money, that's all. Fatty Zhong was just about to take out his key to enter the house when his cell phone suddenly rang. He took it out and saw that it was a message from his wife. So what if you know? That's Boss Li's child. Try to touch me. Fatty Zhong was confused, but he was not a fool. He figured out that his wife was saying that his son was not his biological son, but the child of Li Zong, who was known as Li Lao Da in the underworld. Fatty Zhong's head also felt buzzing. No wonder the kid looked less and less like himself as he grew older. But why did my wife say such a thing out of the blue? Fatty Zhong was also puzzled. Chapter 9, Pretending to be Strong. Early in the morning, all the car shops were quiet and all the salespeople were looking at Su Zi. Su Zi looked at the car, and they looked at Su Zi. No chance. Judging from his clothes, he doesn't look like someone who wants to buy a car. You can't say that. Some people are rich, but you can't tell from their appearance. Last time, didn't an old lady come over with a plastic bag of green onions and buy an A6 in full without saying a word? Yes, and besides, whether they buy or not, don't you have to entertain them? Su Zi took a fancy to a car and couldn't take his eyes off it. So he parked his electric scooter and walked into the store. Su Zi did not encounter the cold shoulder treatment often seen in novels from salespeople. As soon as he entered the door, someone immediately greeted him warmly. How can I help you, sir? The person who spoke was a beautiful long-legged girl with twinkling eyes. She didn't have the contentious attitude of the people in novels at all, which made Su Zi unable to slap her in the face. I'll just take a look. Do you have a favorite style, sir? Let me see that one. As Su Zi said that, he walked towards the car he liked. The other cars along the way were also very good. Just by looking at the color of the paint, you could tell that the car was really good. The salesperson stayed by Suzetti's side patiently, just slightly lower than him, highlighting Suzetti's distinguished customer status. "Sir, is this the QX80 you are looking at?" "Yes." Suzy nodded and opened the car door. The beautiful saleswoman blurted out various professional data, and Suzy kept nodding his head as he listened. The interior of the QX80 is made of soft stitched leather, which is not only comfortable to touch, but also comfortable to sit in. The front seats have heating and cooling functions. "Would you like to try it, sir?" No, just introduce yourself." Through the introduction of the beautiful saleswoman, Suzy also learned that this car is really good and has excellent off-road performance. It would be very convenient for him to go on a self-driving tour with Yu Qian and have a picnic. At this time, Suzy had forgotten that H6 could actually do all these things, but who can blame him for being rich and willful? Moreover, it is easy to go from a luxury car to a luxury car, but it is difficult to go from a luxury car to a luxury car. After seeing the QX80, Suzy no longer had the interest to buy the H6. It's not that the H6 is not good, but how can a commuter car worth more than 100,000 yuan be compared with a car worth more than 1 million yuan? It's not fair at all. On the other side, the salesmen who didn't get any service were also talking about it. If he wants to look at other things, there's still a chance he can buy them, but that car is definitely out of the question. Xu Xian's efforts are in vain. "TSK, I have nothing better to do than brag to you. Do I have money? I try my best to get what I want, that's why I can be the best seller. Don't go too far, just talk about this man. I said he definitely won't buy it. Do you want to bet?" Suzy didn't care what others thought. He only knew that this car was perfect. It was low-key but very comfortable. The hand-stitched leather seats were very comfortable to sit on, making people feel that driving this car was a pleasure. This is something that cars like Porsche and BMW cannot bring. Apart from anything else, many people who don't know much about cars don't recognize the Infiniti logo. It's perfect for fooling those gossipy old ladies in school. "That's it, swipe the card there." The beautiful saleswoman Xu Xiyun didn't react at first. "What do you mean by swiping a card? Have you been here to look at the car for more than 5 minutes? You swiped a card already." But she was still the sales champion after all, so she reacted quickly and said immediately, "Would you like to test drive it again? To see its performance and so on. Besides, this car has been discontinued since 2017. For a discontinued car, there will be a shortage of spare parts over time, but Suzy doesn't plan to drive it for the rest of his life, so isn't 2 or 3 years enough to play with it? Besides, if it breaks down, you can just buy another one. This car is only worth $1 million, so what's the big deal?" Suzy also felt that it was troublesome to test drive the car. After all, he had classes in the morning, so he said decisively, "It's okay, let's do it. Then take a look at the matching products. Our store also offers preferential discounts." As Xu Xiyun spoke, she took out the tablet and displayed the optional items. As for Suzy, he chose this car because its appearance is relatively low-key and the logo is not well known to the public, so the configuration naturally has to be the highest. What about front car radar, added? What about heated steering wheel, plus? The cost of all accessories was rising steadily, and Xu Xiyun was in a state of panic. She thought to herself, "This man is not here to tease me. This car is only 1.5 million, and the accessories add more than 1 million, so it's 3 million now. Who buys cars this way? Wouldn't it be more face-saving if you bought a car worth more than 3 million? It wasn't until Suzy actually swiped the card and the store manager who came over with the POS machine smiled so hard that his mouth almost reached his ears that Xu Xiyun felt relieved. She couldn't help but think about Suzy again, so she pulled Suzy over and said, "In fact, you have chosen so many accessories, we have discounts." After swiping the card, Suzy was still sighing. He only spent more than 3 million yuan after choosing all the top configurations. How could he spend 2 billion yuan? After hearing what Xu Xiyun said, Suzy waved his hand and said firmly, "No need, just go with the full price, can't you get more commission?" Har har. When Xu Xiyun heard this, her expression remained unchanged, but she felt uncomfortable in her heart. She originally thought that this man was different from others, but it turned out that he was similar to those who had been harassing him. Want to use money to knock her down? After hearing what Suzy said, the manager also gave Xu Shiyun an ambiguous look, which almost made her angry to death. However, Su Ziyi swiped the card and set a time to pick up the car. All the procedures for getting on the road were handled by this store. He said, "Is it okay? If it's okay, I'll come to pick up the car next week. I'm leaving now." After saying that, he said goodbye to Xu Shiyun, went straight out the door, got on his electric scooter and left. Xu Shiyun was also confused. When Su Ziyi left, he didn't ask for her business card, didn't leave her phone number, and didn't add her WeChat. Wasn't he trying to seduce her? But what if someone clearly wants a discount but doesn't he want it? You must want to wait until you pick up the car before making an appointment. This is the only reasonable way to think, Xu Shiyun thought. You have already paid, I just don't agree, what can you do to me? At worst, I can just change my job. But when Xu Shiyun thought about Su Ziyi, she felt that he was quite handsome, especially the way he swiped the card was very cool. He didn't look like the kind of wretched and greasy middle-aged man, so it didn't seem like a loss to date him. Su Ziyi had no idea that his unintentional action had caused a beautiful saleswoman to worry and fret. He was rushing to school to prepare for class. Chapter 10. I like this car. Early in the morning, all the car shops were quiet and all the salespeople were looking at Su Ziyi. Su Ziyi looked at the car, and they looked at Su Ziyi. No chance. Judging from his clothes, he doesn't look like someone who wants to buy a car. You can't say that. Some people are rich, but you can't tell from their appearance. Last time, didn't an old lady come over with a plastic bag of green onions and buy an A6 in full without saying a word? Yes, and besides, whether they buy or not, don't you have to entertain them? Su Ziyi took a fancy to a car and couldn't take his eyes off it. So he parked his electric scooter and walked into the store. Su Ziyi did not encounter the cold shoulder treatment often seen in novels from salespeople. As soon as he entered the door, someone immediately greeted him warmly. "How can I help you, sir?" The person who spoke was a beautiful long-legged girl with twinkling eyes. She didn't have the contentious attitude of the people in novels at all, which made Su Ziyi unable to slap her in the face. After all, reality is different from the world of novels. There aren't so many idiots who are willing to die. I'll just take a look. Do you have a favorite style, sir? Let me see that one. As he spoke, Su Ziyi walked towards the car he liked. The other cars along the way were also very good. Just by looking at the beautiful colors of the paint under the light, you could tell that the car was really good. The salesperson stayed by Su Ziyi's side patiently, just slightly lower than him, highlighting Su Ziyi's distinguished customer status. "Sir, is this the QX80 you are looking at?" "Yes." Su Ziyi nodded and opened the car door. The beautiful saleswoman blurted out various professional data, and Su Ziyi kept nodding his head as he listened. The interior of the QX80 is made of soft stitched leather, which is not only comfortable to touch, but also comfortable to sit in. The front seats have heating and cooling functions. Would you like to try it, sir? No, just introduce yourself. Through the introduction of the beautiful saleswoman, Su Ziyi also learned that this car is really good and has excellent off-road performance. It would be very convenient for him to go on a self-driving tour with Yu Qian and have a picnic. At this time, Su Ziyi had forgotten that H6 could actually do all these things, but who can blame him for being rich and willful? Moreover, it is easy to go from a luxury car to a luxury car, but it is difficult to go from a luxury car to a luxury car. After seeing the QX80, Su Ziyi no longer had the interest to buy the H6. It's not that the H6 is not good, but how can a commuter car worth more than 100,000 yuan be compared with a car worth more than 1 million yuan? It's not fair at all. On the other side, the salesmen who didn't get any service were also talking about it. If he wants to look at other things, there's still a chance he can buy them, but that car is definitely out of the question. Xu Shiyun's efforts are in vain. "TSK, I have nothing better to do than brag to you. Do I have money? I try my best to get what I want, that's why I can be the best seller. Don't go too far, just talk about this man. I said he definitely won't buy it. Do you want to bet?" Su Ziyi didn't care what others thought. He only knew that this car was perfect. It was low-key but very comfortable. The hand-stitched leather seats were very comfortable to sit on, making people feel that driving this car was a pleasure. What's more, others also lowered their voices, so Su Ziyi couldn't hear them at all. This is something that cars like Porsche and BMW cannot bring. Apart from anything else, many people who don't know much about cars don't recognize the Infiniti logo. It's perfect for fooling those gossipy old ladies in school. That's it, swipe the card there. R. The beautiful saleswoman Xu Shiyun didn't react at first. What do you mean by swiping a card? Have you been here to look at the car for more than 5 minutes? You swiped a card already. But she was still the sales champion after all, so she reacted quickly and said immediately, would you like to test drive it again? To see its performance and so on. Besides, this car has been discontinued since 2017. For a discontinued car, there will be a shortage of spare parts over time, but Suzy doesn't plan to drive it for the rest of his life, so isn't 2 or 3 years enough to play with it? Besides, if it breaks down, you can just buy another one. This car is only worth $1 million, so what's the big deal? Suzy also felt that it was troublesome to test drive the car. After all, he had classes in the morning, so he said decisively, it's okay, let's do it. Then take a look at the matching products. Our store also offers preferential discounts. As Xu Shiyun spoke, she took out the tablet and displayed the optional items. As for Suzy, he chose this car because its appearance is relatively low-key and the logo is not well known to the public, so the configuration naturally has to be the highest. What about front car radar? Add it. What about heated steering wheel, plus? The cost of all accessories was rising steadily, and Xu Shiyun was in a state of panic. She thought to herself, this man is not here to tease me. This car is only 1.5 million, and the accessories add more than 1 million, so it's 3 million now. Who buys cars this way? Wouldn't it be more face-saving if you bought a car worth more than 3 million? It wasn't until Suzy actually swiped the card and the store manager who came over with the POS machine smiled so hard that his mouth almost reached his ears that Xu Shiyun felt relieved. She couldn't help but think about Suzy again, so she pulled Suzy over and said, actually, you have chosen so many accessories, we have discounts. After swiping the card, Suzy was still sighing. He only spent more than 3 million yuan after choosing all the top configurations. How could he spend 2 billion yuan? After hearing what Xu Shiyun said, Suzy waved his hand and said firmly, no need, just go with the full price, can't you get more commission? Har har. When Xu Shiyun heard this, her expression remained unchanged, but she felt uncomfortable in her heart. She originally thought that this man was different from others, but it turned out that he was similar to those who had been harassing him. Want to use money to knock her down? After hearing what Suzy said, the manager also gave Xu Shiyun an ambiguous look, which almost made her angry to death. However, Suzy swiped the card and set a time to pick up the car. All the procedures for getting on the road were handled by this store. He said, is it okay? If it's okay, I'll come to pick up the car next week. I'm leaving now. After saying that, he said goodbye to Xu Shiyun, went straight out the door, got on his electric scooter and left. Xu Shiyun was also confused. When Suzy left, he didn't ask for her business card, didn't leave her phone number, and didn't add her WeChat. Wasn't he trying to seduce her? But what if someone doesn't want the discount even though it's available? You must want to wait until you pick up the car before making an appointment. This is the only reasonable way to think, Xu Shiyun thought, you have already paid, I just don't agree, what can you do to me? At worst, I can just change my job. But when Xu Shiyun thought about Suzy, she felt that he was quite handsome, especially the way he swiped the card was very cool. He didn't look like the kind of wretched and greasy middle-aged man, so it didn't seem like a loss to date him. Suzy had no idea that his unintentional action had caused a beautiful saleswoman to worry and fret. He was rushing to school to prepare for class. Chapter 11 Mysterious Tycoon. The school where Suzy works is actually a combined elementary, middle and high school. He teaches Chinese to 4th to 6th graders, but also teaches history to junior and senior high school students. Suzy's history class is much more popular than his Chinese class because after he finishes explaining the knowledge points in the lesson plan, he will talk about some very interesting things that are not in the textbook. Suzy thinks that talking about these things can help cultivate students' interest in history. In fact, his teaching method is very profitable, and the history grades of the classes he teaches are quite good. Stand up, hello teacher. Hello, students. Please sit down. Suzy walked into the classroom, put the book on the podium, and then wrote beautiful blackboard notes on the blackboard. He turned around and was about to start his lecture. Suddenly I noticed that the introverted little fat girl in the front row looked a little strange. Wang Juhua, what's wrong with you? When the little fat girl heard Su Ziyi's voice, she barely raised her head and said, "Teacher, my stomach hurts." Her face has become like a bitter gourd. You know, she is always smiling and her friends call her the happy pill. Su Ziyi asked Wang Juhua's deskmate, "How long has she been like this?" The boy sitting next to Wang Juhua was a man who wore high-power myopic glasses. Because the chubby girl was always laughed at as a fat pig, he was also called a man living in a pigsty, so he was very unfriendly to Wang Juhua. So the boy with glasses said, "Who knows, he is so strong yet he pretends to be soft all the time, just like an ugly woman imitating a beautiful woman." Su Ziyi's face darkened when he heard this, but now was not the time to criticize glasses. The most urgent priority was to send Wang Juhua to the infirmary. "Two girls, come and help take Wang Juhua to the infirmary. Su Ziyi is a man after all, so it is not easy for him to do anything. Girls in the first year of high school are already well-developed young girls, so he also has to avoid suspicion." "Teacher, let me do it." No one spoke for a long time, and finally Cheng Xiaoyu stood up. Su Ziyi glanced at Cheng Xiaoyu. She looked like she was only half the weight of Wang Juhua. How could she support the fat girl? "Li Mingyu, He Chui, both of you come here." No one volunteered, so Su Ziyi had to call out names. These two were on the school team and were strong, so it would be no problem for them to help Wang Juhua. The two men reluctantly went over to help Wang Juhua up. Just as they were about to leave, they heard a puff and then a foul smell spread. Li Mingyu and He Chui immediately jumped away, covering their noses. There was a naughty boy student shouting, "The fat pig pooped his pants, har 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 har. Those guys behind you, shut up or go run laps on the playground." Su Ziyi shouted in a deep voice. This is considered an outstanding situation. There is no other way. Su Ziyi cannot force the students. Students are very precious nowadays, and parents will rush to the school if they are not satisfied. People don't care about auxiliary teachers like Su Ziyi at all. They just try to curry favor with the main teachers and the head teacher. So Su Ziyi had no choice but to ask the female teacher to come over. After cleaning, she went to the infirmary to get some medicine. The school doctor said it was diarrhea, but Su Ziyi didn't take it seriously. The little fat girl loves to eat, so it's normal for her to have a stomachache. Su Ziyi went back to continue his class, but before the class was over, he heard that Wang Juhua had jumped off the building. Fortunately, he was too heavy and didn't have the strength to pull, so he was discovered before he climbed over the railing. This really scared Su Ziyi. Later, Cheng Xiaoyu told Su Ziyi that Wang Juhua was determined to lose weight because everyone laughed at her and called her a fat pig. When she was watching Eggplant Live, she saw a food broadcaster who ate large chunks of meat and all kinds of delicious food every day, but she didn't get fat at all. The anchor was endorsing a slimming tea, and Wang Juhua bought a bunch of it. Unexpectedly, something went wrong after she drank it for a day. During the lunch break, Su Ziyi took out his mobile phone and searched for the anchor. She was indeed very thin and small, but the big plate in front of her was full of food. Then Su Ziyi watched her eat a whole plate of chicken legs in big mouthfuls, then a plate of pork elbows, and finally a plate of Australian lobsters. Su Ziyi was also shocked. This guy has a rubber stomach. Even he couldn't eat so much. Su Ziyi is much taller than that anchor. There must be something wrong here, because according to the law of conservation of energy, if you eat too much, you will definitely get fat. This is an eternal truth. No matter how much she exercises, she won't be able to keep up with the amount of exercise. Running for an hour only consumes 600 calories, which can be offset by a chicken leg. The host's small body doesn't look like the type that can do that kind of crazy exercise. So Su Ziyi summoned the system and asked it to find out everything. The anchor herself claims that she never exercises and only drinks slimming tea so that she can eat a lot of delicious food every day without getting fat. In the live broadcast room, there are also many people who claim to be fans and stand up for the host. Many people who were unaware of the truth were deceived into buying that kind of slimming tea. Humph, there must be something fishy going on here. However, Su Ziyi didn't know what it was specifically. Every profession has its own expertise, so it's better to leave this matter to the system. When he got off work in the afternoon, Su Ziyi had already received news that Wang Juhua's condition was very serious and she had been transferred to the hospital. If she continued to be treated like this, she would suffer from dehydration and shock, and her life would even be in danger. But at this time, the system's information also arrived. Suzy checked the intelligence and immediately understood what was going on. So Suzy went to the live broadcast platform and contacted the anchor through private messages. My student was hospitalized due to dehydration after drinking your slimming tea. I hope you will immediately stop the false advertising and apologize to the consumers, especially my students. Otherwise, you will bear the consequences yourself. The anchor received Suzy's private message and sneered, "Who the hell is this person?" Then I deleted the private message. Suzy didn't expect the anchor to have such a high level of awareness. He did this just to make things more heartbreaking. Then the anchor would cry and think, at that time, I will listen to Sue's father and apologize. Suzy originally wanted to buy a few outfits in the evening, as his current clothes were not suitable for Yu Qian's beauty. Well, actually Suzy felt that it was not worthy of his wealth. But because of this incident, Suzy had no choice but to go home and prepare to do something. Humph, you don't apologize and you're wasting my time. Let me show you how I can deal with you. The anchor didn't take Suzy's words seriously and continued the live broadcast at mealtime. At this time, Suzy had quietly entered the live broadcast room. There were a lot of people in the live broadcast room. When Suzy suddenly came in, no one paid attention to him, including the host himself. He just casually said, "Welcome, new friend." But the next second, they couldn't help but pay attention. Suzy fired 9,999 rockets in a row. Everyone was stunned when they saw the sky full of rockets launching into the sky. Is this a shill or a rich man? The anchor thought, is this the person the platform found? Am I getting this treatment now? Or was it the agent who negotiated with him? Chapter 12 I just don't believe it. Because of Suzy's constant rewards and rockets, the live broadcast platform also put the anchor's live broadcast room on the homepage. The popularity soared instantly. Although this anchor is also a famous food broadcaster, he is not a heavyweight figure. The maximum number of people in his live broadcast room is 300,000 per day. But with Suzy's constant rocket sending, millions of people soon flocked to watch. Several other popular anchors even came to visit, looking jealously at the rich man who had sent out 9,900 rockets and then another 9,900 rockets without taking money seriously. The food broadcast host was so excited that she almost fainted, and she took the initiative to give her WeChat to Suzy. However, when she sent a private message, she suddenly discovered a problem. How come this rich guy is the same person who apologized to her in the afternoon for buying slimming tea? Is this what is going on? With her pine nut-sized brain, she couldn't figure this out. At this time, Suzy saw that the popularity of the live broadcast room was already high enough, and he had completely achieved his goal, so he started speaking. This anchor is a liar. She doesn't stay in shape by drinking slimming tea. You've all been fooled by her. She's actually a rabbit. As soon as these words were spoken, the food broadcast host seemed to have been hit in her sore spot. Everything went dark in front of her eyes. She quickly prepared to kick Suzy out of the live broadcast room to stop him from continuing. Unexpectedly, because the live broadcast room was so popular, several super moderators were here. They felt that any kind of revelations would be fine as long as they were topical and popular. As for sacrificing a few anchors, what's the big deal? As for websites, profits are paramount. What's more, the big guy who sends rockets is obviously a rich man, and the food broadcaster is nothing in the eyes of the super moderator. If not her, who should be sacrificed? So the super administrator took over the management rights. Rabbit, what is a rabbit? Suzy began a detailed science popularization based on the information searched by the system. Rabbit is the self-proclaimed name of the group of people who induce vomiting. The so-called CT means vomiting. Look at this anchor. She has two protrusions on her neck. In the special terminology of the rabbit group, these are called eggs. They are a feature unique to ZR and ST rabbits, while those who enter G are not very obvious. Boss, what are ZR, ST, and G? Suzy also patiently answered them one by one. ZR means natural. Some people are used to vomiting and can vomit as soon as they open their mouths. It is commonly known as natural. ST means manual. This means that you need to scratch your throat with your hands to vomit. G means tube insertion, which means using a tube directly into the stomach to induce vomiting. The host looked at the words jumping on the screen and felt like she had been stripped naked. It's over. My broadcasting career is over. However, the anchor thought that she would also be doing live broadcasts and taking endorsements for Slimming Tea, and would get commissions of several million, which would be enough for her to live a carefree life for a long time, so she decided not to do it. However, when the anchor went off the air, I habitually wanted to order some takeout. The rabbits eat all the time, and then vomit after eating, repeating this countless times a day. But after she placed the order and chose to check out, a page asking her to pay popped up. The anchor was also very confused. Was it set up for quick payment? When she entered the page to select the payment method, she found that she only had Huobi to choose from, and bank card, Alipay balance, and urged balance were all unavailable. The anchor, hoping for a lucky break, logged into Alipay and took a look at WeChat. Suddenly, his eyes went dark and he fainted. At this time, Suzetti's cell phone rang. He took it and saw that he had received a sum of 5.8 million. Suzy curled his lips. He was endorsing a 3-no product. He was obviously a rabbit but pretended to drink Slimming Tea to make dirty money. He didn't expect that he didn't make as much as the vegetable vendor. If Fatty John was here and heard this, he would definitely want to beat someone up. The money was stolen from him by gangsters, but he didn't even dare to spend it before it was all taken away by Suzy. Where could he go to seek justice? Suzy opened WeChat and transferred 20,000 yuan to Cheng Xiaoyu, leaving a message. I contacted the anchor, and she gave some money to compensate Wen Juhua. You can transfer it to her. I don't have her WeChat. After a while, Cheng Xiaoyu asked, Teacher Su, do you know who was the person who exposed her true identity in the live broadcast room of that bad anchor? I don't know. Why do you ask? I think I admire him very much. Don't think too much, just focus on studying. After doing good deeds, Suzy felt refreshed. At this time, the door rang and Yu Chen came back. Honey, are you hungry? Can I make you some noodles? Okay, Yu Chen kicked off her high heels, walked to the sofa in a crooked manner, and then lay down on it without any image. I'm so tired. I'm worried when there's no business, and I'm tired when there's business. Life is so hard. Oh, by the way, the sandwich you made this morning was really delicious, although it was a bit extravagant. I ordered the recommended meal from a famous sandwich shop tonight, but it's still not as delicious as yours. At this time, Suzy came out with a bowl of noodles and placed it on the table in front of Yu Chen. Wow, so beautiful, and smells so good. The noodles made by Suzy, the white soup, green leaves, and red meat complement each other. The color combination is pleasing to the eye, and the hot breath also brings the aroma of the noodles to Yu Chen's nose. Yu Chen, who had a big appetite to begin with, suddenly felt hungry again. In a short while, she gobbled up all the noodles and even drank up the soup. Is it enough? If not, I'll go further. Don't. Yu Chen touched her belly and said, if you keep doing this, I'll become a fat man sooner or later. No, I have to exercise starting tomorrow. Whether you are fat or thin, you are the best in my eyes. Yu Chen glared at Suzy and said, I won't believe you. You'll be disgusted by that. Hey, the collar of your shirt is getting fuzzy. Take this card and buy some new ones when you have time. I'm too busy lately. Suzy put the card back into Yu Chen's bag and said with a smile, your husband is not short of money. He has 2 billion. Just hypnotize yourself like this every day. Maybe you will actually believe what you said that day. I really do. Well, considering that you have made great contributions to the company and cook such delicious food, I agree that you have 2 billion. Suzy also smiled bitterly. Why didn't his wife believe it? Although this was indeed a little hard to believe, Suzy took out his mobile phone, checked the bank balance and handed it to Yu Chen. Yu Chen glanced at it and laughed, don't give me that shit. This is the picture you downloaded. You used it as your desktop background, right? Don't think I don't know anything. If you have the guts, transfer the money to me. Suzy also had a frown on his face. Just as he was about to say something, Yu Chen's phone rang. It seemed to be about the company, and Suzy didn't want to disturb her. Although Yu Chen's company is just a small technology company, it is a microcosm of the country's civilian technology. She also has the ambition to develop her own chips one day and no longer rely on imported chips from abroad. Suzy would definitely support Yu Chen in this regard. It was precisely because of Yu Chen's sentiments that Suzy treated women other than Yu Chen like cabbages. Now that I have the system, of course I have to help my wife fulfill her wish. Chapter 13 Massage. Suzy couldn't help feeling distressed when he saw Yu Qian's tired look. You have to do business and take care of your health. As Suzy spoke, he helped his wife press on her shoulders. Move over there, it's so sour, use a little more strength. Yu Qian closed her eyes slightly, enjoying Suzy's massage, and said, It's not that I want to be busy. I have wiped out Karen technology all at once. I have received too many orders, and the production capacity of the cooperating manufacturers is insufficient. I am so anxious that I can't find other places. It's really frustrating. Suzy thought about it and realized that although his wife's company had received a large number of orders, from a certain perspective, many companies had only paid deposits, and that money would be enough to place orders with the factory. If we look for another factory, we will have to make additional investments. Yu Qian obviously didn't take Suzy's words that he had 2 billion seriously, so it was normal for her to feel anxious now. You can't spit out the meat you've already put in your mouth. Suzy thought, this problem is easy to solve. Tomorrow, he can ask Lao Cheng, the tool man, to register an investment company and invest venture capital in Yu Qian's company. On the one hand, it can solve Yu Qian's financial problem, and on the other hand, she can make some extra money. Suzy was thinking about something, and the strength in his hands was inevitably a little insufficient. Yu Qian said a little dissatisfiedly, Hey, if you want to press it, be more careful. Sorry, I was just thinking about how to help you. Suzy also felt that his massage skills were not good enough. His wife hadn't even felt comfortable yet, but he felt his hands were so sore. So I couldn't help but call up the system and asked, Is there any way to improve my massage skills? The system responded quickly. You deserve a book of massage skills, but it costs money. TSK, money is shit, give me a copy. After Suzy made money several times in a row using the system was upgraded. Now he can fully communicate in his mind, and the things he exchanges only take place in the 5-dimensional space and will not affect Suzy's current world. So Suzy was not afraid. For example, a book suddenly appeared in his hand and his wife was startled or something like that happened. A golden light flashed in his mind, and Suzy completely absorbed the book of basic massage skills. Suddenly, Suzy's technique improved to more than one level. Hey, those 2 presses were pretty good, keep up the good work. Suzy thought, how come it's only beginner level, can you do anything about the system, is it reliable? If you want to do something, go to the master level, do you think I'm short of money? With golden light flashing, Suzy spent 3 million and directly upgraded to a master level massage technique. Suzy's fingers were like playing the piano, beating rhythmically on Yu Qian's smooth and delicate skin. Well, it feels so good. It's getting more and more comfortable. As Yu Qian spoke, her voice became deeper and in the blink of an eye she was snoring softly. Suzy also looked at his wife's sleeping posture with heartache. You know, only overwork will cause snoring at this age. Suzy helped Yu Qian take off her clothes and shoes, then carried her to the bed like a princess and put her to bed. The next day, when Yu Qian woke up, she felt extremely comfortable. She had never experienced this kind of feeling again since she took over the company. The back pain caused by sitting in the office for too long seems to have eased a lot. Wow, Suze, it couldn't be because of the massage you gave me yesterday, the effect was amazing. At this time, Suzy had already walked into the bedroom carrying a tray. If you like, I'll do it for you every day. Come, have breakfast first. Although he didn't have time yesterday, Suzy got up early today to make breakfast, including soft and tender vegetable buns, fragrant and delicious soy milk, and crispy and fluffy pan-fried buns. The non-greasy, sweet and spicy hand-pulled pancake, and a small bowl of hand-rolled noodles. Yu Qian was also amazed and exclaimed, This is too good, are you a white cake master? When did you learn this skill? Suzy said, You are busy with company affairs, so I study because I am bored. Suzy also told a small lie, which immediately made Yu Qian feel guilty. I'm sorry, I ignored you before. I admit that. At this time, Suzy picked up a pan-fried dumpling and stuffed it into Yu Qian's mouth, saying, Eat quickly. Don't be so polite between husband and wife. Yeah. Wow, it's like being a VIP. I don't get this kind of treatment even when I'm staying in a suite at the Four Seasons Hotel. I've seen British housekeepers on TV helping their masters deliver meals to their beds, so their wives can enjoy the treatment of nobility. Har har, hey, this Xingjian is delicious, better than Yang's, this vegetable bun is delicious. The hand-rolled noodles are delicious too. Yu Chen usually doesn't eat much to keep in shape, but the food Suzy makes is so delicious that Yu Chen eats a lot and becomes very full. Oh my, you are so bad. If you keep eating like this, you will become a fat man sooner or later. A year's plan starts with spring, and a day's plan starts with the morning. It's okay to eat more in the morning. Haven't you heard what the experts say? Eat a full meal in the morning, eat a full meal at noon, and eat less at night. Half an hour later, Yu Chen went out to work, and Suzy also rode along on his electric scooter. Although I bought the XQ80, there are still a few days before I can pick up the car, so I need to delay the days of showing off for a few days. Apart from receiving a thank you text message from Wang Juhua's parents, basically nothing happened that day. Suzy also went to the store after get off work to buy some clothes. His old clothes were actually quite new, and Suzy was reluctant to throw them away, but they no longer matched his temperament. However, Suzy still insisted on the word low-key. Suzy would never buy something like HS Hermes belt. In fact, Suzy has undergone a lot of changes now. His Ray-Ban sunglasses were custom-made for Infinity. Chinese people didn't know much about them, so they wore them anyway. After parking, they just sat down in the car, so even if they knew, they might not be found. The mobile phone is also a customized fruit machine. There is a big Infinity logo on the back of the phone, but Suzy is different from others. While others are eager to show it off, he cleverly covers it with a simple phone case. Not at all obvious. The gifts also include wireless headphones, real bags, wallets and other miscellaneous items. Arriving at the most prosperous area, Suzy stepped into the door of the shopping mall, but his eyes were only on those light luxury brands that were not easy to recognize. But when he reached the watch counter, he couldn't help but feel unable to move. Although we can check time with mobile phones nowadays, watches are very important accessories for men, but they are not just for telling time. Chapter 14: Important Ornaments. There are still many big brand counters in the Golden Eagle shopping mall, such as the Vacheron Constantin that Suzy is looking at now. Suzy looked at it for a while and couldn't help laughing. He had always heard of Vacheron Constantin, but looking at the English letters, isn't this Constantine? It must be said that people who give Chinese names are very good at having fun. After looking for a while, Suzy moved to the next door to buy Darpali. The Chinese name was also very beautiful, but the English name was actually dry, by Da Phillips. Think about it carefully. If it is changed into English, doesn't it lose its magnificent and noble feeling? Sir, which one do you like? Although the name is just that, I have to say that the workmanship is quite good. Suzy almost had his eyes stuck in it and couldn't pull them out. After hearing what the shopping guide said, Suzy pointed to the watch he had been looking at the longest and said, I want to try this one. The sales staff in the store were extremely professional. Although Suzetti's outfit was not as good as their work clothes, they still looked very polite and not disrespectful at all. Instead, they were warm and considerate, making Suzy feel at home. Is this the one? You have good taste. This 5726 1A101 suits your temperament very well. The salesperson did not take the watch from the counter, but asked Suzy to wait in the lounge and get one from the warehouse. While Suzy was waiting, a drink menu was brought out for him to choose from. Soon, the Pepsi and watch that Suzy wanted arrived together. Suzy put it on his hand, felt it for a while, looked in the mirror again, and said, this is it, swipe the card. When the salesperson heard this, the smile on his face became even brighter. This guy is definitely a big dog dealer, right? You little bastard, you want to hide your aura of a wealthy man by wearing cheap clothes. He didn't even ask the price and just asked for credit card payment. How cool. Sir, I regret to tell you that this watch costs 320,000 renminbi, and today the international exchange rate of Swiss francs to RMB has changed, which means that buying it in our store is nearly 20,000 renminbi more expensive than at the headquarters. Suzy waved his hand and said, it's okay, swipe the card. The salesperson was also depressed. This rich guy didn't take the money seriously. He hadn't even mentioned the discount yet and was interrupted. However, service comes first. The salesperson had no choice but to swipe the card and let Suzy sign before continuing, to make up for your loss, our store will give you a few small gifts. I hope you will accept them. Then he handed over a small box. Suzy threw it directly into the packaging bag without even looking at it. I bought a watch but it still doesn't work. What else do I want to do? I still have to buy clothes and go home to cook. Time is precious. The sales staff also hurt themselves, and they didn't have the chance to say many sales terms. When customers felt that the watches were expensive, they would say that our Patek Philippe brand appreciates in value every year, and buying our watches can be considered an investment. What they said is true. It is common for a watch to appreciate in value by tens of thousands. But will Suzy care? As he watched Suzy leave, the salesperson thought to himself, "This idiot bought a watch worth dozens of dollars faster than I buy a pair of shoes worth hundreds of dollars. No, it's faster than me buying cabbages at the market." In fact, Suzy did come in for a quick look, and when he saw something he liked, he immediately decided to buy it. Suzy's logic is that if he likes something at first sight, he can't get away from it no matter how much he looks at it later, so he buys it immediately if he likes it. This is also the difference between men and women when buying things. Men will spend double the price on something they like, while women will spend half the price on something they don't need. It didn't take too long to buy a watch, but Suzy thought, if he bought a watch for himself, he couldn't not buy one for his wife. Just when he was about to turn back, he found that he almost became a straight male cancer. Women are all obsessed with looks, and price is secondary. When it comes to beautiful watches, who can compare with Cartier? Even someone like Suzy, who has been poor for most of his life, knows this. So he turned and entered the Cartier store again. In a blink of an eye, Suzy brought out a pink women's watch worth more than 10 yuan. It's really faster than buying groceries. The quality of Cartier watches is average, but they are beautiful. But does Suzy care about this? If it breaks, he will just buy a new one. He is like a man who dotes on his wife. Even though Suzy was so fast, there was still not enough time, so he had to buy simple clothes. I randomly found a light luxury brand and bought a shirt, trousers, and a Louis Vuitton belt. It's not as exaggerated and eye-catching as Hermes, but the logo is not that obvious. 11,000 is not very expensive. All in all, I spent less than 80,000 yuan on clothes and shoes, which is not as much as the watch I was going to give to Yu Qian. After making the hasty purchase, I rushed to the parking lot to find an electric scooter and rushed home. Not to mention, it really attracts attention in the parking lot. At that time, Suzy was afraid of trouble, so he just put on a suit. He looked dignified and had an extraordinary temperament. Many of the shopping bags in his hands were famous brands. Many beautiful girls looked at Suzy again and again. Until Suzy turned into the carport and rode on his electric scooter. Those pretty girls also had black lines on their faces. What the hell? Is he a mall employee? He's holding some shopping bags to show off? What a waste of good looks. When he got home, Suzy put away the clothes and the shopping bags. After all, they were big brands with good quality. Maybe they would be useful when he went to the market to buy groceries in the future. As he was rummaging around, he took out a piece of paper from a shopping bag. On it was written a phone number and a suspected WeChat number, as well as a name called Jindan, in beautiful handwriting. Golden elixir? I'm still in the nascent soul stage. The tall and beautiful girl named Jindan also appeared in Suzy's mind. Her long legs wrapped in black stockings were indeed quite eye-catching. However, Suzy still tore up the note and threw it away. Bar, is this love? You are just trying to get my money, how despicable. However, when Suzy finished preparing the meal, he waited for a long time but Deng Qian still hadn't come back, so he called her, but found that the voice on the other end was very noisy and he couldn't hear anything he said. Finally, I called Yu Qian's secretary and found out that the factory they had previously cooperated with so that Yu Qian had a lot of orders and raised the price. Yu Qian was so anxious that she almost got bubbles on her mouth because she was afraid that the company would not start working unless the price was raised. Suzy was also excited when he heard the news. MD, dare to mess with my wife? Another one who gives me money to spend, please don't let me down with your assets. Suzy thought about it and pushed the door open. When your wife encounters difficulties, as a husband you must stay with her. The cooperative work was in an industrial park in the west of the city. Suzy didn't know where it was, but he had Baidu navigation. So Suzy rode his electric scooter to the industrial park. Chapter 15. Just buy it. More than 20 minutes later, Suzy appeared beside Yu Qian. Why are you here? If you don't come back, I'll call your secretary. Hey, you can't help me. Forget it, let's talk about this tomorrow. My head hurts. You have to give me a good massage when you get back. Yu Qian took Su Ziyi and turned around to leave. At this time, a middle-aged man in his 50s said, "Boss Yu, let's negotiate the price and start the work as soon as possible, otherwise I won't be the only one who suffers." Yu Qian turned around and said to the middle-aged man in a bad mood, "Uncle He, I respect you as an elder and have known your father for many years, so I didn't sign a contract with you. Now you are raising the price, which is too unfair. If it weren't for my company, your factory would have closed down long ago." Hearing Yu Qian's words, Su Ziyi was also very angry. This middle-aged man was too short-sighted. Couldn't he see that Yu Qian's company was thriving? If you raise the price now, what will you do in the future? This is too unwise. If we cooperate well, will there be fewer orders in the future? I really don't know what he is thinking. Su Ziyi also felt a little distressed. If he said that, there wouldn't be much profit to be made by destroying this factory. The starting amount was 2 billion, which made Su Ziyi's appetite a little high. If he could only get a few million, Su Ziyi would really not be interested. I can't help it. My old friends have to eat too. But your price is too outrageous. If it doubles, should I work for you? Only then did Su Ziyi understand why Yu Qian refused to agree to double the salary. This was too much. No one could make such a request. However, Su Ziyi knew that there must be another mystery here. He was afraid that this old man did not really want to raise the price, and there must be other inside stories. System. Help me deal with him. I want to know the facts and the truth. Hey. Wife, let's go back first. Don't worry, they don't want to do it. Are there no other factories? Let's go to the one next door and have a look. As he said that, Su Ziyi was about to pull Yu Qian over. Yu Qian said, "Let's go home. That man is very wild and many people have to buy into his account. Even if we look for him, he won't agree. Otherwise, would he dare to force the emperor to abdicate? He's not that stupid." Su Ziyi smiled and said, "Har har, wife, haven't you heard the saying that being too clever can be a mistake? It's hard to say whether he is really smart or just shooting himself in the foot. Let's go to that factory. The owner of that factory is my elementary school classmate. Is this true or not? Zero." Yu Qian also looked unconvinced. In her impression, the boss of the factory seemed to be in his 40s, almost 50. He failed many grades. Although Yu Qian didn't believe it, she was pulled over by Su Ziyi. Yu Qian backed out halfway through. "It's so late, most of them must have gone off work." "No. I saw him when I came here just now. You will know when you come and see." Su Ziyi pulled Yu Qian in without saying anything. The security guards in the security room at the factory gate acted as if they didn't see Su Ziyi and didn't stop them. This also made Yu Qian trust Su Ziyi a little bit. Is he really Yu Qian's classmate? If this relationship really exists, and he finally agrees to help Yu Qian's company start work overnight, the entire production schedule can still be caught up. However, when Yu Qian was dragged by Su Ziyi to the factory director's office of this factory, she suddenly saw an acquaintance in the office. "Old Cheng, why are you here?" At this time, it seemed that Lao Cheng was talking to the director of the factory. There was a stack of documents on the desk in front of them, and the boss of the factory was reading the documents carefully, signing his name somewhere from time to time. At this time, Yu Qian also saw clearly. She looked quite old, and with her Mediterranean hairstyle, she looked 60, and some people believed her. He also didn't believe that this guy, who was Su Ziyi's elementary school classmate, would beat Qian to death. "Director Wang, I came here to ask for your help." Yu Qian hesitated for a while but finally spoke up. Since she was already here, the worst that could happen was that she would make her request and be politely rejected and sent away. Yu Qian had been running a company for so many years and knew that face was not something that could be eaten. It is only with this kind of bold and careful attitude that the business can be carried out smoothly. "Mr. Yu, I'm so sorry. If you had come earlier, I might have agreed to your request. But you're too late now. I've already sold the factory to someone else." "Sold it?" Hearing the other party say this, Yu Qian was also in disbelief. If you think about it, this place is also the place where the boss started from scratch. How many entrepreneurs would sell the place where they started from scratch? At the very least, they can keep it there for themselves to look at and also as a kind of nostalgia for the years of hard work in the past. If it were Yu Qian, he would definitely not buy it. However, if the buyer was Su Ziyi, his belief might be shaken. After all, Su Ziyi is rich and doesn't care if you don't waver, right? So he raises the price to a level that can make you waver. Yes, I just sold it. Actually, I was reluctant to part with it, but the price offered by this guy was so attractive. I have now achieved financial freedom. You can go to Australia and relax. The goal is to shift the focus from the factory manager to Lao Cheng. Old Cheng, it's impossible that you bought this factory. This is too unbelievable. I'm a little sorry, Mr. Yu, it was really me who bought this factory. Yu Qian became a little uneasy when she heard this, and she even suspected that she was dreaming. After all, she knew everything about old Cheng's family situation. He was in poor health, had an unstable job, and did odd jobs. His daughter was starving like a kitten. How could he buy the factory? Then Yu Qian could buy America. Boss Yu, you don't have to be like this. I'm just a white glove, helping people with their work, but I can also make some decisions. OEM, right? I've agreed on behalf of my boss. As for the price, it's based on the price you originally gave to the manufacturer next door. After hearing what Lao Cheng said, Yu Qian immediately felt refreshed. Does your boss agree with you doing this? Do you want to make a phone call to ask for permission? Old Cheng looked at Su Ziyi. Su Ziyi was standing with his hands behind his back, looking around, as if to say, I know nothing and it has nothing to do with me. Hey, our boss will definitely agree. Chapter 16 Chinese Martial Arts. Really don't need to ask. Really? The boss is your husband, what else are you asking? When Lao Cheng said this, Yu Qian turned around suspiciously. Su Ziyi nodded and said, yes, I bought it. Har ha har har, is this true? I don't believe it. Lao Cheng, let's sign the contract first. If your boss disagrees with the price, we can negotiate as long as it's within a reasonable range. Yu Qian was afraid that Lao Cheng's hard-earned job would be ruined because of helping her. Su Ziyi was torn, why didn't he believe it? Su Ziyi was also holding back his energy, wanting to prove himself. At this time, a message came from the system that the loophole in the factory had been found and he could start taking revenge. If you don't believe it, then don't believe it. Never mind, one day. Now Su Ziyi is busy running that factory. Niu Boyi has grown up and actually dares to challenge his wife. Su Ziyi found an excuse to leave and retrieved the information found in the system. Oh, Karen technology was actually in it. Chen Liang had been imprisoned for various problems. He didn't expect that his sister didn't try to find a way to get her brother out, but instead had the leisure to trick Yu Qian. After reading the information, Su Ziyi thought to himself, a family should be together. If you are not included, it will affect the family reunion and hurt the relationship between brothers and sisters. At this time, Uncle He was with a hot young woman. Ms. Chen, for you I may offend a big client. The sexy woman gently shook the goblet in her hand and said, don't worry, after Yu Qian's company defaults and goes bankrupt, I will use another company to take over her orders, and I will give you 3 times the orders at that time. Then let's have a happy cooperation. Kiesia. Just as the two were clinking glasses, Su Ziyi had already set off on his electric scooter. Although I don't know how the system obtained the information, it is obvious that all the information is already in Su Ziyi's mind. The most urgent task was to finalize Yu Qian's contract. At that time, Yu Qian was too anxious and set the penalty for breach of contract very high. In addition, there was a clause with an obscure loophole that could be exploited by the other party. It seems that this company has a private relationship with Chen Liang and deliberately set up a trap for Su Ziyi's wife here. The business world is like a battlefield, where all kinds of despicable tactics emerge in an endless stream. Although Yu Qian had calculated well and could rush the work, how could she know that people could even bribe the factory? It took Su Ziyi more than 10 minutes to enter an upscale residential area. He was a little absent-minded as he looked at the information he got. The person Su Ziyi was looking for was a lawyer and also Yu Qian's legal advisor. Yu Qian had known him since childhood and he was the older brother of her neighborhood. She trusted him very much, but she did not expect that he would help a competitor and leave a loophole in the contract. These are nothing. The key point is that this man is tall and strong. I heard that he has practiced fighting and sonder in his spare time. If Su Ziyi rashly goes to him and gets beaten up, it will be a lot of fun. This gangster is both civil and military. Originally, the system gave Su Zi a hacking tool, and he used the internet to change the electronic file of the other company's contract, but there was another copy with this lawyer. Su Zi had no choice but to look for him. Although the system is omnipotent, when it comes to people, Su Zi still has to step in. System, is there anything I can use to defend myself? The Chinese martial art, Wing Chun, is very suitable for being performed in a small space. What? Wait. Before Su Zi could finish his words, a golden light flashed in his mind, and Su Zi inexplicably felt that he understood something more. Originally Su Zi wanted to say, Chinese martial arts. This stuff is all over the place, okay? It's all fake, it's a liar. All their masters were beaten like dogs, and it wasn't enough of a shame. Especially the recent Tai Chi master named Mar Igua, who looks very good at Tai Chi. No matter what kind of punch you use, he will hit you in the face. If you lie down for less than 10 seconds, he loses. But after Su Zi digested the knowledge in his mind, he found that Chinese martial arts was not that bad. Chinese martial arts mainly consists of 4 parts: mental method, skills, training method, fighting method, and performance method. The mind method refers to the basic essence of this technique. For example, Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do emphasizes the principle of striking first after striking last, intercepting your punch. Tai Chi emphasizes using the opponent's force to counter the opponent's force, using softness to overcome hardness. Training methods refer to the way of exercising the body. They vary from school to school, but they are all roughly the same. For example, in the past, people used to play with stone locks, stone loads, and horse stances. Now, people play with dumbbells, barbells, and do squats. The fighting style refers to how to fight in actual combat. Acting is the routine of performance. The reason why Chinese martial arts are not doing well nowadays is that they are out of touch with reality and do not focus on the mindset. For example, a certain Wing Chun successor went up to the ring to compete with others and was beaten like a dog. Although courage is commendable, this is not how Wing Chun is used. Wing Chun is said to have been created by Yin Wing Chun, also known as the women's fist or the assassin's fist. If you want to take advantage of Wing Chun, the terrain is very important. Because Wing Chun's ultimate move is inch power. Inch power does not mean that you can exert your strength to 120% or even higher. It is just to exert your full strength as much as possible in a narrow space where you can't exert your full strength. In other words, the space is very small, and those who practice fighting cannot kick or punch, and can only exert 50% of their strength, but they can exert 90% of inch power. This is a good deal. In the ring, what's the use of inch strength? Moreover, the so-called masters nowadays can only act, and their acting is not good, especially Mar Igua, who dances like a bear. The acting method is only used for performance. It was used by martial artists in the past to recruit apprentices. It is useless except for looking good. Can I fight after learning this? Definitely not. But Su Zi learned the whole set, and this is no boy. Moreover, Wing Chun is an authentic form of boxing, different from Tai Chi, Xingquan, and Bajikan. The essence of Tai Chi is the spear, or the two-handed sword. It just incorporates spear and sword techniques into fist moves. Barji and Xingyi are also spears. Baguazhang is a sword and shield combination, and when you start to move, it is actually a stance with one hand holding a shield in the front and the other hand holding a sword in the back. Why does Bajikan look awkward, as if the fist cannot be straightened? As long as you put a spear in the hand of a Barji practitioner, you will understand that Bengquan and other moves are all stabbing movements with a spear. After all, during the Qing dynasty, civilians were prohibited from owning weapons, so martial artists had no choice but to transform their weapons into fists and feet. Wing Chun, on the other hand, is not a weapon, it is directly a boxing technique. It is really the most suitable for a newbie like Su Zi who has no basic knowledge. Su Zi went upstairs, with a skill in hand, without any trembling in his heart, quite like a master, and looked as if he would shout at any time, "I'm going to beat 10 of them." When they arrived at the place and knocked on the door, the lawyer opened the door in confusion, but his face changed when he saw it was Su Zi. Chapter 17. I'm going to hit you. Why are you here? With a smile on his face, Su Zi held the door that the lawyer was about to close with one hand. Of course I'm looking for you. The lawyer was 1.87 meters tall and strong, but he still couldn't squeeze past Su Zi, who had obtained the complete secrets of Wing Chun. He could only say with an unpleasant expression, "Why are you looking for me? You know the good things you have done." The lawyer's expression changed, and he said to Suzy, "I don't know what you are talking about, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. Please respect yourself." Suzy put his hand on the door and the lawyer couldn't close it. He could only say, "If you do this again, I will have to call security. I hope it won't be too awkward. Yu Chen and I will see each other often." Suzy chuckled and said, "You did something like this, and you still want to meet her." The lawyer originally thought that Suzy was petty and was looking for trouble with him because of some rumors. But after hearing this, he realized that Suzy seemed to know something. Only then did he look serious and said, "If you don't leave, I will really call for help. Go ahead and scream. If you like to scream so much, I'll grant your wish." It was normal for Suzy to use force. If he wanted the lawyer to hand over the problematic contract, it would not work just by talking. Although the system had a way to do it without using force, it was too time-consuming. Besides, Suzy didn't have much good feelings towards the lawyer who coveted his wife. So what if he beat him? It's not like he couldn't afford the medical expenses. "I have been so cautious for more than 20 years, and now I can't enjoy my life even though I have cheats. I might as well buy a piece of tofu and hit my head against it and die." So Suzy said this, and stretched out 2 fingers and touched the lawyer's shoulder socket. There are quite a lot of nerve plexuses here. If you stab them with a knife, even the strongest man will confess things he doesn't want to say. Although Suzy only used a little force to poke here, the effect was not much worse than a stab with a small knife. The lawyer jumped back as if he had been electrocuted. Suzy slipped in. According to the information obtained from the system, the contract is in the lawyer's safe. The lawyer wanted to stop Suzy, but Suzy poked him and half of his body became numb. He couldn't move at all and could only follow Suzy reluctantly. "Hiss, you are breaking into a private house, I can sue you." "Whatever, if you want to sue me, I'll accompany you." Suzy went straight to the safe without even looking at the lawyer and opened it according to the password provided by the system. The lawyer was also stunned. "How did you know my password?" Suzy opened the safe and quickly found the contract, but there was also a mobile phone in the safe, which made Suzy smile. "Oh, you have a gun. Oh, and you just wanted to call the police. Is there no signal on your cell phone? I can lend you my phone." "That's just an air gun, it uses carbon dioxide to shoot steel balls. I don't understand these things. I'll let the police identify them when the time comes." The reason why Suzy was so confident was mainly because he knew from the information in the system that there was such a thing in the safe. Since the lawyer had a dirty trick, he didn't dare to call the police. Unexpectedly, a dark look flashed across the lawyer's face, and he angrily said, "You're looking for death." By this time he had recovered, and he turned sideways and kicked Suzy with a powerful side kick. Fortunately, Suzy had just learned Wing Chun from the system, and his reaction was much faster than before. If it were in the past, it would have been kicked against the wall and hung there. But now Suzy is calm and composed. Although the boxing classics say that hands are 2 doors, one must rely on feet to strike. This means that the legs are stronger than the arms. But the time it takes to raise the leg is too long, so it is usually used in a combination, such as a straight punch followed by a whip kick. Lawyers who start out by using their feet are complete novices who have no idea about practical skills. Although the leg techniques are really beautiful. Suzy slightly turned sideways, lowered his body, and kicked the lawyer like a yellow dog peeing, making him lie down. Yellow dog peeing is a Xingyi move. Wing Chun has fewer leg techniques, so it is included as a supplement, and is used as a move to appreciate the unique skills of other schools. Since Suzy is proficient in Wing Chun, it is reasonable for him to use this move subconsciously. This move is quite vulgar and does not look pretty at all. It is unlike the lawyer's leg technique. The whole person sticks out his chest and back, and kicks his legs straight. It is very beautiful, but it is not enough to protect himself. Suzy's yellow dog curled up when he urinated, protecting his vital parts very well. "You little brat, you want to fight me? Do you believe I can beat 10 of you?" The lawyer bounced up as soon as he fell to the ground. It was obvious that his strong body was able to withstand strong blows. A person's ability to withstand blows is directly proportional to his weight. "I'm going to kill you." The lawyer rushed over in a rage. "But I only heard 2 bangs, and then it came back from there and went back to where it was. continuing to lie on the ground. Su Ziyi clapped his hands, stuffed the contract in, and walked towards the door, saying as he walked, "No need to see me off." After leaving the house, Su Ziyi secretly thought that he was lucky. If he hadn't learned Wing Chun, the problem would not have been solved so easily. The main reason was that Su Ziyi saw the intelligence that the lawyer had a gun hidden in his home. But Su Ziyi would not let him go so easily. So a phone call was made to 110. "I want to report that someone is hiding guns." As for the lawyer's transfer, that has nothing to do with Su Ziyi. Anyway, he used hacking software to make the call, and 110 can't find the source. Even if they can't find it during the search, they can't cause trouble for Su Ziyi. Next, we have to deal with Uncle He. After going downstairs, Su Ziyi subconsciously looked at the time, but found that his watch had broken at some point during the fight. This. What the hell is a Swiss watch? More than 300,000. But when I think about the billions of dollars still lying in the bank, I don't feel so bad about it. Su Ziyi rode his electric scooter to Golden Eagle. When the clerk at Baidar Paley who received Su Ziyi yesterday saw that the rich man had arrived, he immediately smiled and came over. "My watch is broken, so I want to buy a new one. Is there a kind that won't break easily?" "Broken? We can fix it here. If it's our watch, we'll cover the cost and even replace it. Don't bother. I got it from a fight. It took too long to fix. I'll just buy another one. I have only one request: it must be of excellent quality and not interfere with my ability to check the time after the fight." The clerk was also numb. What kind of request was this? Are you a man? And you check the time after a fight? You fight every day. Such a wealthy man actually fought, which surprised the shop assistants. But VIPs come first. Su Ziyi was still well served, and soon he gave him a sports type 1, which was a little more expensive than the previous one, at 560,000. Chapter 18 First Love. Su Ziyi paid for it by swiping his card without even blinking. "I didn't even accept the discount the manager offered me." In order to curry favor with Su Ziyi, the manager offered to repair his watch and guaranteed that although it had nothing to do with the quality of the watch, since Su Ziyi was a super platinum VIP, he could still repair it for free. After it is repaired, it will be sent directly to Su Ziyi's home. When Su Ziyi heard that he didn't have to come in person to get it, he reluctantly agreed. Su Ziyi was unwilling to come if he had to make a personal trip just for a broken watch worth more than 300,000 yuan. After dealing with the broken watch, Su Ziyi rode his electric scooter and prepared to deal with Chen Liang's sister and that old guy Uncle He. After dealing with the lawyer, the system did not send any message saying that money had been deposited. It seems that all the trouble was not enough to kill the person, but at least it should be enough to put him in jail. Unexpectedly, it started to rain heavily while we were walking on the road. Helpless, Su Ziyi could only stop the car and avoid the rain. At this time, he also missed his newly bought car very much. If he was driving the car now, he would not be afraid of knives raining from the sky. He could sit in the car, listen to music, and happily watch others run away in fear. Su Ziyi heard a familiar voice, but he couldn't remember who it was for a moment. When he turned around, he saw a familiar face. Wang Yuan, Su Ziyi's ex-girlfriend. "Oh, you are hiding from the rain here too." Wang Yuan looks okay, and is considered a beauty, but still can't compare to Yu Qian. However, this is Su Ziyi's first love, and when you are in love for the first time, even if you are pig, you will be afraid that the other person will be snatched away by someone else, okay? Not to mention that Wang Yuan looks pretty good. "No, I'm waiting for my boyfriend to pick me up." "Is that your car?" Wang Yuan's eyes fell on the somewhat shabby electric scooter. In fact, Su Ziyi is a person who cherishes things. He did not treat the electric scooter seriously just because he bought the car. He thought of putting it at home and using it sometimes when he went to the market to buy vegetables. "It's just that this bike is really old and I've ridden it for so long that even if I maintain it well, it's bound to wear out." Judging from what Wang Yuan said, it seems like he is saying that you are still doing so badly after all these years. Su Ziyi didn't explain, just nodded. "Hey, you're wearing a Patek Philippe." "Oh, I know, har har." Wang Yuan saw the freshly made watch on Su Ziyi's wrist, which was worth 560,000 yuan, but then he smiled like a seasoned driver. Of course, who would think that a man riding a shabby electric scooter is wearing a watch worth more than 500,000 yuan? Of course I thought it was a fake. But your workmanship is really good. Can I take a look? As he said that, Wen Yuan took Su Ziyi's hand in a familiar manner and looked at it carefully. It's really nice. Where did you buy it? Can you buy it for 5,000? I think the workmanship is worth 10,000. Su Ziyi curled his lips and thought, if the watchmaker from Patek Philippe heard this, would he tear Wen Yuan to pieces? Hey, let's stop talking. My boyfriend's car is here. Oh, and we're organizing a class reunion soon. You never come. Why don't you come this time? We haven't seen each other for so long. As soon as Wen Yuan opened her mouth, Su Ziyi knew what she wanted to do. Su Ziyi looked at the Porsche Cayenne parked on the side of the road and thought, you're dating a rich guy and you want to show off in front of me. Par. Okay, if you have time, let's go. No, I will arrange a time when everyone is free. Teacher Shu will also be here. Let's add WeChat. When adding WeChat, Su Ziyi also saw that the driver was a fat man with a shaved head, wearing a Nike sportswear and a large gold chain as thick as a finger tied around his neck. Damn, why is my first love so materialistic? Wen Yuan got in the car and made a contact gesture to Su Ziyi, saying, you must come. Okay, I'll definitely eat the dog food you spread. After the car drove away, Su Ziyi finally breathed a sigh of relief. The donkey brand bag that Wen Yuan was carrying just now was actually an A-grade product, and it was obviously produced by Xiushui Street. But why did Su Ziyi say it? He was in vain for being a villain. He could recognize it because Yu Qian also had one. When he was bored, he searched for it on purpose to find out how to identify the authenticity. After waiting for a long time until the rain stopped, Su Ziyi got in the car and drove forward. Chen Liang's sister's tactics are much more sophisticated than Chen Liang's. It can be said that she is a plan within a plan. Although in the business world, she only cares about interests and not grudges, but women are women after all. Su Ziyi sent Chen Liang to jail with a piece of paper, and the feud was settled. Chen Liang's sister Chen Rong didn't know the role Su Ziyi played in this, so she naturally only focused on Yu Qian. Judging from the information provided by the system, this woman is also a top student who graduated from an Ivy League school and worked at Goldman Sachs for a period of time. No wonder she could come up with such a sinister method. Su Ziyi was summarizing the information in his mind as he drove towards Hebu's factory. At this moment, a figure flashed past Su Ziyi's eyes, and before he could react, he was already lying in front of Su Ziyi's car. Oh my god, you are too dedicated to your job as a scammer. It just rained and the ground is still wet. Are you just going to lie down like this? Su Ziyi looked at the old lady lying in front of his e-donkey and his face was full of black lines. Although he is not poor now and his family owns a mine, he does not want to spend money in this way. It does not give him pleasure at all. 20,000, I went to the hospital by myself, I felt my leg was broken. I didn't even touch you. At this time, a fiery red sports car stopped beside Su Ziyi, and a stylishly dressed girl got out and said to Su Ziyi and the auntie who was trying to scam her, what a coincidence, I think my dashcam should have captured the whole process. Upon hearing this, the old lady immediately jumped up from the ground and said dissatisfiedly, what does it have to do with you? I didn't touch your porcelain. Su Ziyi was also speechless. You don't touch those who are driving sports cars, so why do you touch me who am riding an electric bike? The old lady seemed to know what Su Ziyi was thinking, and turned around and said, if I get hit by a sports car, I'm going to die. Well, these guys are really as smart as monkeys. Thanks. Su Ziyi thanked the fashionable girl. You're welcome. I just can't get used to this kind of unhealthy trend. I really want to sue her for fraud. There are not many women who are so righteous, beautiful and have such a hot body. Su Ziyi couldn't help but sigh. Thank you anyway. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would have to spend a lot of money. Then, please treat me to a meal. I went abroad when I was a child, and I didn't stay in China for many days. I don't even know where the good food is here. Su Ziyi wanted to decline, but since the other person had helped him so much and had spoken so much, it seemed unreasonable not to treat him to a meal. Sure, I know you well. My name is Su Ziyi. May I ask your name? Phut, please tell me your name. My name is Chen Rong. The beautiful woman is very graceful and elegant. However, when Su Ziyi heard the name, he immediately became confused. What? Chapter 19, Deliberately Getting Close. Suzy felt like he was about to break apart. Is this fashionable and pretty woman in front of me the vicious woman who is plotting to ruin my wife's company? Judging from the fact that Chen Rong volunteered to come over to help Suzy and scared away the old lady who was trying to scam her, it shows that Chen Rong has a strong sense of justice. Suzy couldn't combine the figures of these two people no matter what. However, Suzetti's face did not change at all, he just said, "Nice to meet you." In fact, in this day and age, with information so developed, it's really not difficult to find out what there is to do and eat in the local area. Suzy wondered if Chen Rong had investigated Yu Qian and knew that he was Yu Qian's husband, so she wanted to do something shady. So Suzy also took advantage of the situation and wanted to see what tricks Chen Rong would come up with. "Hey, it's not convenient for one of us to drive and the other to ride a bike. Forget it, wait for me." Suzy just watched Chen Rong running back in her high heels, finding a place to park the car, then walking over with her bag and sitting behind Suzy without saying a word. What kind of routine is this? Aren't you afraid that I'm a bad person and will sell you to the mountains? Har har, I don't think you are. Why do you say that? Can you tell I'm not a bad person? No, I trust the judgment of that old lady who touches your porcelain. If you are a bad person, she would not dare to touch your porcelain. After listening to Chen Rong's brilliant speech, Suzy was quite impressed. This woman's way of thinking was really different from that of ordinary people. But then again, after all, Chen Rong grew up abroad, so it didn't seem too awkward for her to go out to dinner with someone she just met. The two of them were chatting casually. It was not known whether Suzy became much more humorous after having the system, or whether Chen Rong's sense of humor was too low. There were all kinds of laughter and joy along the way. This made Suzy a little crazy. After spending some time together, Suzy also felt that Chen Rong really seemed to have no idea that he was Yu Qian's husband. If Chen Rong was acting, her acting skills must be horrible. Originally, Suzy wanted to take Chen Rong to a relatively famous small restaurant. For someone like Chen Rong who just came back from abroad, it would definitely not be appropriate to take her to a Western restaurant. They had to go to a small and distinctive restaurant like this. Only loser girls like Wang Yuan, who always stretch their necks to get into high-end circles, can be brought to a Western restaurant. Different people, different servants. However, after Chen Rong received a call, she said that she would not go because she had something to do today. She asked him to leave her contact information and talk about it later. After Suzy learned Wing Chun, his basic skills were the Banaduanjin technique created by Yu Fei, which is the improved version of Ba Duan Jin currently circulating in society. Suzetti's set is much more difficult. So the ears and eyes are sharp. As the saying goes, if the tendons are 1 inch longer, the life is extended by 3 years. If the tendons are 3 inches longer, the ears and eyes are sharp. So I heard most of what Chen Rong said on the phone. The voice on the other end of the line was quite familiar. Suzy heard it very clearly. Wasn't it the lawyer? It seemed that the guy was also in cahoots with Chen Rong. It seems that Chen Rong is indeed quite capable. From the time Chen Lian was sent in by Suzy to the time Chen Rong planned to deal with Yu Qian, it only took a few days. For an ordinary person, it would take a long time just to collect intelligence. Unless she also has system help. However, if you think about it, it is impossible for Chen Rong to have a system. The system is not a cabbage. This kind of thing is used by the protagonist to abuse others. How can the enemy also have it? So Suzy and Chen Rong exchanged their phone numbers and agreed to have dinner together again when they had time to make up for the meal they owed. The system only gave a solution to deal with Uncle He and Chen Rong's identity. But it didn't tell how to deal with Chen Rong. Suzy decided to wait and see if he could get any information from Chen Rong that the other systems couldn't dig out. Anyway, Yu Qian already had the factory he bought, so starting the operation wouldn't be a problem. The problematic contract was also resolved by Suzy. So let Uncle He jump around for 2 more days. There was no movement from Chen Rong for 2 days, so Suzy called up the system, and the system said it had given the best solution. This made Suzy a little angry. He couldn't even deal with the big boss behind the scenes, and the intelligence was incomplete. How could this be called the best solution? But think about it, could the incident with the old lady who scammed him into paying for insurance be an encounter arranged by the system for him and Chen Rong to meet? If the guess is true, then the system is really amazing. I didn't wait for Chen Rong, but I did wait for Wang Yuan's call. The dinner was held at a decent and affordable restaurant. After all, we are classmates. Some are doing well and some are not. We can't set the tone too high. Suzy was just being polite that day and had no intention of going. High school classmates who were really close must still be in touch with each other now, and they don't need to rely on dinner parties to keep in touch. Isn't it said on the internet that class reunion, breaking up every couple is a good thing? Apart from the students who were doing well and showing off, there were also various old lovers flirting with each other. There was no innocence at all that there was in school. It just so happened that the car dealership called Suzy today and asked him to pick up the car. Suzy was inexplicably excited. It was his first car in his life. From then on, I could be considered a car owner. As a result, Suzy went out to take a taxi. After all, he was going to pick up the car, and it would be inconvenient to ride an electric bike. Unexpectedly, a DD car came over, and the driver happened to be Suzy. Hey, isn't this Suzy? Wang Yuan called us to a party today. Did he invite you? He must have called you, right? I don't want to go. We haven't been in touch for so many years. What's there to see? The driver gave a thumbs up and said, he's a real man who can handle it. Wang Yuan is much more handsome now than before. Suzy curled his lips. He was far inferior to Yu Qian. Even Chen Rong and Wang Yuan can't compare to her. She relies entirely on heavy makeup, filters and PS to create the illusion that she is much prettier to people in her circle of friends. She is not a fairy, so how can she become more and more beautiful? 18 or 19 years old is the best age in a girl's life. It has nothing to do with me. I'm married. Congratulations, I didn't expect you to get married so early in our class. Can you accompany me? I didn't want to go at first, but Wei Wenhuan is going too, and I want to see what she looks like now. I'm embarrassed to go alone, and I have nothing to say to them. After the driver said this, Suzy originally refused, but he couldn't resist the driver's desire to see the goddess in his mind during his school days. Just go, it's just a meal, no big deal. Chapter 20, Show-Off Conference. If he found it fun, he would chat more with his classmates. If he found it boring, he would leave early. Suzy was not like the driver, who wanted to eat and have fun again. So the driver stepped on the accelerator and took Suzy to the class reunion location. After entering the private room, everyone had a vague look on their face. The youthfulness of their student days was long gone, and they were all working people. Alas, I'm too busy. The deputy mayor originally wanted to invite me to dinner today, but I've been drinking a little too much lately, so I turned it down. Suzy also curled his lips. This guy is too pretentious. The best way to pretend is to be 70% true and 30% false, and then brag to the moon. Who would believe it? Looking again, oh, it's the former class monitor who was always so active when he was in school. His face was rosy at the moment. He was only in his 20s but already had a big belly. The bracelet on his wrist and the BMW car key on his waist showed that he was now in an extraordinary social position. It can be seen from the fact that several flatterers surrounded him and listened to him bragging about Boyi that this guy is quite popular. Hey, Wang Jungwo, Suzy, you're here too. Long time no see. Where are you hanging out? The squad leader had good eyesight and greeted him as soon as he saw him. Wang Jungwo is the name of the driver classmate. The monitor had a sharp eye. He could tell at a glance that although the brand of the clothes Suzy was wearing was not well known, the quality was very good and it was obvious that they were not cheap. Looking at the watch on Suzy's wrist again, he suddenly became even more enthusiastic. Although Suzy came with Wang Jungwo was soon forgotten in the corner. It's okay. I'm a teacher now. Well, what a pity. With your grades back then, you couldn't get into Shuemu University or Yander University. But getting a double degree in finance and economics would be no problem. What were you thinking? Why did you end up in a normal school? Suzy smiled calmly and said, teaching and educating people is good. The squad leader laughed loudly, patted Suzy on the shoulder and said, the great talent Su is very conscious. He is right. There is no distinction between high and low jobs. Let's have a few more drinks at the banquet later. The squad leader wanted to say something, but someone came over and whispered something in his ear, so he just said a few polite words and left with an excuse. Suzy has forgotten the man's name, he only knows that he was a narrator when he was in school. Because he likes to wear his hair in a middle part, everyone calls him a traitor. Although the traitor spoke softly, Suzy had sharp ears and still heard a few words. It seemed that the guy told the squad leader that Suzetti's wife ran a company and that Suzy was living off her. The squad leader naturally became cold towards Suzy. This is a good thing. Suzy is too lazy to communicate with those snobs. Just think of it as staying here to accompany Wang Jingwo. Not long after, Wang Yuan came in, but he didn't bring her fat husband. He was also dressed up beautifully today, but even so, he was still overshadowed by the bare-faced woman next to her. Xu Jiayu was the goddess in the eyes of many boys back then. Even Wang Jingwo, who had always been obsessed with Wei Wenhuan, was stunned. It seems that time has not left too many traces on Xu Jiayu. She still dresses like a student, with simple long straight black hair, but her cool temperament inexplicably attracts people's attention. Wang Yuan used to be good friends with Xu Jiayu, and Suzy had always believed this before he started dating Wang Yuan. However, after they started dating, Suzy discovered that Wang Yuan was very jealous of Xu Jiayu and said a lot of bad things about her in front of Suzy. But in front of others, they were still two sisters, and the woman's actions also made Suzy very troubled at that time. If a man hated that person, he would not go to the toilet with him even though he was on good terms with her. This is called plastic sisters. Two beauties came in and the atmosphere became even more lively. The squad leader also came forward and was very attentive. Wang Yuan is not as shy as he was in school and can handle it with ease. However, Xu Jiayu has always maintained a cool and neutral style. Only the cowardly Wang Jingwo and Suzy, who already had a wife and looked down on other women like cabbages, just said hello and didn't come any closer. The class monitor spoke eloquently and specifically introduced that Suzy is now a teacher, teaching Chinese to grades 4 to 6. On the surface, he was praising Suzy, but secretly he seemed to be saying that Suzy was just an elementary school teacher with no money. Xu Jiayu's beautiful eyes fell on Suzy and she thought, he really went to a normal school. As Wang Yuan's former best friend, she naturally knew that in order to tie Suzy down, Wang Yuan had forced Suzy to apply to the same school as her. Wang Yuan's grades were too poor, and she could not get into any other school except this one. When the final results came out, Suzy passed the score line by more than 100 points, but Wang Yuan performed very poorly and only got into a second-tier accounting major. The two still couldn't be together. Suzy was also foolish back then and made a choice in his life. If he had performed normally, he would have been much more successful now. Almost everyone was there, and with the deliberate effort to stir up the atmosphere became even more lively. At the squad leader's call, the restaurant waiters began to serve the dishes. Drinking at such gatherings is inevitable. Suzy, come on, you ride an electric bike, right? You don't drive a car, it's okay, it doesn't matter if you drink a few more glasses. Ever since the squad leader noticed Xu Jiayu's eyes falling on Suzy from time to time, he got angry and kept pulling Suzy to drink. Just look at the squad leader's big belly and you'll know he has been tested by alcohol. Suzy only drinks a few times a year, and he doesn't like drinking, especially heavy drinking. But at the signal of the squad leader, a group of people surrounded Suzy, and it seemed that they were determined to embarrass him. If they turned against each other and overturned the table at this time, they could probably get out of the predicament. Anyway, even if all these people attacked together, they could not be a match for Suzy, who was a grandmaster of Wing Chun. But we can't implicate other students. So Suzy asked the system, which had pretended to be dead for a long time, how to deal with this situation. The system responded quickly this time. A gene egg is sent to their host's pocket through an alternate dimension. If eaten, it will produce a special enzyme that can break down alcohol in the body at a rate 20 million times faster. 20 million times. This is almost an instant hangover relief, and you will be immune to it. While no one was paying attention, Suzy immediately took out the gene pill from his pocket and swallowed it in one gulp. Damn, you want to get me drunk? I'm going to beat 10 of them this time. After taking the gene pill, Suzy immediately felt refreshed. The wine he had just drunk was immediately broken down, and the slight drunkenness also disappeared without a trace. Chapter 21, Welcome everyone. Originally, the monitor wanted to get Suzy drunk, and during that time, Wang Yuan and Xu Jiayu clinked glasses with Suzy using milk instead of wine, and Xu Jiayu especially whispered a few words to Suzy. This made the squad leader even more jealous and crazy, and he led a group of younger brothers to attack Suzy frantically. Suzy was also at a loss whether to laugh or cry. Xu Jiayu actually didn't say anything to him. It was just that Xu Jiayu always spoke in a low voice, and the box was very noisy, so it seemed like a very private situation. However, since he is so shameless, Suzy will not be kind to him. After a short while, Suzy came with the squad leader and his little brothers for 3 rounds. He accepted everyone who came, and did not care whether the other party was raising fish or trying to take advantage of the opportunity. He was really generous. The more the squad leader's gang drank, the redder their faces became, the louder their voices became, and the more their bodies swayed. But Suzy was still a little drunk, but now he had returned to normal. Damn it, is Suzy a monster? He drank so much and nothing happened to him. Some people can't get drunk when they drink, but they might pass out after the next drink. The squad leader thought it made sense and thought there was no reason to give up halfway, so he gritted his teeth and continued to persevere. The result is predictable, they were knocked down one by Suzy. The class monitor was in tears as well. He had originally wanted to take a few drunk female classmates to get a room after the class, but now who can get a room? Suzy, you can drink a lot now. You learned it there. Wang Yuan was also very surprised. Suzy had been to her house before and he got drunk after drinking less than 1 or 2 glasses of wine. But now he seemed to be fine even after drinking probably 2 or 3 kilograms of wine. No, I'm just happy today. Actually, I can't hold it anymore. I'll pass out if I drink another glass. The squad leader heard it vaguely and thought, I don't believe you, you little pretty boy, you are such a bad guy. You said an hour ago that he was dying, but now 5 of you are crawling under the table, while Suzy is still standing there in high spirits. 1 cup is about to fall. That cup should be at least as big as a water tank. The squad leader got angrier and angrier, and finally thought, why not just pretend to be drunk and see what you guys will do? Because everyone had given the money for the party to the class monitor via WeChat, and now that he was drunk, naturally no one would pay. The squad leader thought he could defeat the enemy and make his presence felt. The boys who are not drunk now are Suzy and Wang Jingwo. Wang Jingwo is a nobody and no one wants to drink with him. The squad leader also learned that Wang Jingwo inherited his father's business and drove a taxi, and Suzy was an elementary school teacher. It would probably be painful for them to pay this money, and he could get a discount by making a stop to it. It's impossible that these 2 grown men would ask their female classmates to pay for it. That's too tasteless. But it was obvious that the monitor had miscalculated. Suzy had no intention of waking him up. He paid the bill immediately and found the hotel waiters to help carry the class monitor and the drunk boys to the guest rooms upstairs one by one. The rent was also paid by Suzy, there was no problem at all. Director Su, how can we ask you to pay this money? We are all just chipping in. It's not a big deal. They are all drunk. We can talk about it later. Suzy said it quite calmly, as if it was just a small amount of money. In fact, it is not that much. Even the food expenses add up to just over 10,000 yuan. For the rich people in Suzhou University, it is just a drizzle. It's just that Suzy is an elementary school teacher. The monthly salary is only about 3,000 or 4,000 yuan. 10,000 is a lot for Suzy. If it was 10 days ago, Suzy would never pay this money. Now it's all floating clouds. Xu Jiayu whispered to Wang Yuan, look at him, he's still the same, pretending to be rich in front of you. Wang Yuan couldn't help but look at Suzy twice more, and felt that he seemed to be more handsome and manly now. Especially when he took out money and swiped the card, his movements were particularly cool. What's the point? Marry a man to get clothes and food. He's just an elementary school teacher. And I heard that he married an ugly but rich wife. Alas, men and women are the same. It's all tears. Is this true or false? I heard from the monitor. Suzy seemed to be completely unable to hear what others were saying and was just chatting with Wang Jingwo. At WeChat, keep in touch if you have anything. Okay, brother Su. Wang Jingwo was a taxi driver and had a good eye. He sensed that Suzy was different and consciously regarded himself as his younger brother. Okay, that's all for today, everyone go home. After settling the drunk guys down and paying for the food and drinks, Suzy felt it was time to disband. No, they are drunk, but we are not. Can't we arrange other programs? 7 or 8 male students were knocked down at once, and most of the remaining ones were female students, including Su Ziyi, Wang Jingwo, and a few unknown male students. Suddenly, the yin became stronger and the yang weaker. Yes, there is a show. I have booked a private room, let's go karaoke together. I don't know when the squad leader appeared again. Although there was still a faint smell of alcohol on his body, he didn't look drunk anymore. He was just pretending in the beginning, and as soon as Su Ziyi gave him the money, he immediately came to his senses. He knew exactly what he was going to do today, so how could he give up halfway? Squad leader, it was Su Ziyi who just paid the bill, you have to give him the money. That's natural, don't worry about it. The squad leader was calculating quickly. He would drink a little more and see if Su Ziyi had enough money. Har har. The private room booked by the squad leader was not far away, and the group chatted and laughed and arrived in just over 10 minutes. Even with discounts on drinks and the like, it still cost $5,000, but since I didn't have to pay for the private room, it wasn't too expensive. But if only one person was asked to pay, it would be a bit too much, especially since in their eyes, Su Ziyi was just an elementary school teacher who earned only 3 or 4,000 yuan a month. When they arrived at the KTV room, although there were a lot of drinks, no one dared to compete with Su Ziyi in drinking. Everyone knows his strength. The class monitor has a strong desire to perform. Once he picks up the microphone, he doesn't want to put it down. It's like everyone is listening to his concert together. It's endless and he talks a lot of dirty talk. Su Ziyi sat in a corner, picked up a bottle of Carlsberg and drank it in small sips. A faint fragrance came over, and Xu Jiayu sat down next to him, also took a beer and sipped it. Although there were several glasses on the coffee table and she was blowing directly from the bottle, it was a bit inconsistent with Xu Jiayu's image as a goddess, but she didn't seem to care about this character. Aren't you going to sing? I don't want to make trouble with them. Suze, are you really just an elementary school teacher? Yes, it's true. If you send your child to our school, I will definitely take good care of him. Har har har. Xu Jiayu glanced at Su Ziyi's feet that were resting on the coffee table. They were a pair of shoes from a European luxury brand. Chapter 22. It's a fake. The most famous thing about them is their handmade customization. Although Su Ziyi's pair is not handmade, the quality is also good. Most people may not recognize this brand, but Xu Jiayu, a fashion editor at a certain website, is not unfamiliar with it. An elementary school teacher wears this. Look at the pants, clothes, and belt. The belt is made by a donkey and costs more than 10,000 yuan. There was something wrong with Xu Jiayu's eyes. They said your wife is very rich. Is that true? It's okay. My wife opened a technology company and the business is pretty good. Su Ziyi said calmly, without explaining that he did not spend his wife's money. Xu Jiayu didn't say anything else. When she turned her gaze to the lively scene on the other side, Su Ziyi didn't know what she was thinking. What Xu Jiayu thinks is none of Su Ziyi's business. A man with a wife should look at other women like cabbages. What? You said cabbage is for pigs to eat. In fact, Su Ziyi and Xu Jiayu didn't talk much. Instead, Liu Rong added Su Ziyi's WeChat and is chatting with him again. Hearing that Su Ziyi was attending a class reunion, Liu Rong insisted on coming to join in the fun. Su Ziyi had no choice but to send her an address. Xu Jiayu is too cold, and any boys who try to show their affection to her always turn down. On the contrary, Wang Yuan and the other two girls, who are outgoing in character, are more popular, although they are not as pretty as Xu Jiayu together. At this time, the door of the box opened and a young man walked in with a wine glass. The squad leader greeted him with a smile, and it seemed that the two knew each other. Let me introduce you all. This is my buddy Zhu Jie. His family runs a business. The Jiajiadi supermarket you often go to is owned by his family. The assets are worth tens of millions. Oh. Don't say those nonsense, we are all friends. Zhu Jie looks quite handsome, with a low-cut casual shirt that reveals his strong muscles. Although the male classmates felt a little uncomfortable about the sudden influx of an outsider, who seemed to be of good condition, the female classmates were quite accepting. In particular, Wang Yuan and Zhu Jie drank wine together. Su Ziyi took a look and curled his lips. Fortunately, she didn't keep talking to Wang Yuan. Otherwise, with her personality, wouldn't she end up on Hulanbar Prairie in the future? Well, it's already later. Zhu Jie played around and saw Xu Jiayu sitting in the corner, and his eyes lit up. Amidst all the chaos, Xu Jiayu is like a breath of fresh air. The most common criticism she gets from girls is that she is too pretentious. Su Zi didn't know whether Xu Jiayu was pretending or just because of her personality. What did it have to do with him? He already had a wife at home. No matter how beautiful other women were, they were just clouds in his eyes. Zhu Jie walked over and just nodded to Su Zi as a greeting, then sat down between Xu Jiayu and Su Zi. Originally, Xu Jiayu and Su Zi didn't sit too close to avoid suspicion, but the distance between them was not too far. When Zhu Jie came in, it immediately became very crowded. Xu Jiayu frowned and stood up. Zhu Jie said dissatisfiedly, "Sister, you are too disrespectful. You left as soon as I sat down." Xu Jiayu said, "I'm sorry, I don't know you well." As she said this, she prepared to change places. Zhu Jie might have drunk a lot of wine and was a little drunk. Besides, the girls he knew greeted him with a smile, which was rare. So he stood up and prepared to reach out to pull Xu Jiayu. At this time Su Zi couldn't stand it anymore. "Damn, I'm here, how can I let you bully my old classmate? Brother, just let it go. She doesn't want to bother with you anymore. If you keep pestering her, you'll only be asking for trouble. Your partner? No. Then it's over. It's none of your business." As he said that, Zhu Jie stretched out his hand and tried to push Su Zi aside. Su Zi is of normal height, while Zhu Jie looks to be about 1.85 meters tall. He also seems to go to the gym regularly to lift weights and is quite strong. His catchphrase is, "Even if my family has no money, I can still get a different girl every day just based on her looks." He does look a bit wild and handsome, and girls who like 8-pack abs may have a low immunity to his type. Because of this, Xu Jiayu responded coldly, which made him a little angry. However, Zhu Jie did not expect that pushing Su Zi would be like pushing him against a wall. Not only did he fail to push Su Zi, but he sat down on the sofa instead. Su Zi has special skills. He can stand in a T-shaped stance. How can he be pushed? It's useless even if he uses twice as much strength. Interesting, do you know who I am? Su Zi glanced at him calmly and shouted to everyone, "If anyone knows this person, please inform his family. He has lost his memory and doesn't know who he is." Har har har. The whole room was filled with joy. Even the squad leader who wanted to curry favor with Mr. Zhu couldn't help laughing. Su Zi was too mean. Xu Jiayu couldn't help but smile. "You?" Zhu Jie was so angry that he wanted to take action on the spot. At this moment, the door of the private room was pushed open, and a fashionable beauty walked in very elegantly, immediately attracting everyone's attention. When Zhu Jie took a look, he was also surprised. "Oh my god, this is exactly what I want to see. It was really worth the trip today to meet so many high-quality young ladies." The attention immediately shifted from Su Zi to the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman's eye stayed on Zhu Jie for less than half a second, just a quick glance, and finally focused on Su Zi. Then she smiled and said, "Har, I thought I had taken the wrong turn." As soon as these words came out, the glasses shattered to the ground. Looking for Su Zi? Wang Yuan was also jealous. No wonder he didn't even look at me today. It turns out he knew such a beautiful woman. Xu Jiayu was also surprised. For a moment, the focus fell on Su Zi and Chen Rong. The squad leader came over and said with a smile, "Su Zi, won't you introduce me? Is this your wife?" "No, we just met today." TSK, who would believe that? Disbelief was written all over everyone's face. It doesn't look like they just met. What if we are fools? Su Zi was also helpless. At this time, Zhu Jie recognized her a little bit. This woman seemed to be the one who was discussing cooperation with his father. When I met him before, he was wearing professional attire, but now he is wearing casual clothes which looks quite different. If I could marry her, I would be willing to live a few years less. It turns out to be Miss Yan, my father Zhu Guanchang. "Oh, give my regards to your father." Chen Rong replied indifferently, then immediately smiled and pulled Su Zi to chat. Zhu Jie was also depressed. What was wrong with me compared to that pretty boy? Handsomer than him, richer than him, taller than him. You are all blind. When Su Zi sat down, the light on his wrist also flashed Zhu Jie. Only then did he notice the watch on Su Zi's wrist. Chapter 23 Suspicion breeds dark ghosts. So Zhu Jie pulled the monitor over and asked, "Is that Su something really a primary school teacher? Really? Can an elementary school teacher wear a Patek Philippe?" Following Zhu Jie's finger, the squad leader saw the watch on Su Zi's wrist, but the squad leader didn't know much about this kind of watch. He himself just wore a Longines watch worth a few thousand yuan and thought it was very good. It must be fake. There are many high-quality imitations on Rainbow Street. But his wife runs a company. Have you heard of Lingxing Technology? TSK, that's just a small company in the office building next to my supermarket. The office is not even as big as my toilet. The squad leader thought, you have a hippopotamus in your toilet. But since this was the person he wanted to curry favor with, he naturally wouldn't say anything sarcastic, so he said, "That's fake. If it's real, he can afford it. Even if an elementary school teacher wants to embezzle, there's nowhere to embezzle. If he accepts things from parents, the maximum benefit he gets is probably tens of thousands of yuan a year." When Zhu Jie heard this, he understood. Humph, he turned out to be a liar who wore a fake watch in order to seduce a beautiful, rich woman. I guess he got his wife that way too. Your classmate is really something. Mr. Zhu's analysis makes sense. Although the class monitor, if he was really lying, why would he be invited to the class reunion? When lying, the less contact one makes with one's own circle, the better. The class monitor himself may have some experience and understanding of this. As I said, the squad leader has no reason to sabotage others. These are all Zhu Jie's own analyses anyway. He is just cheering behind the scenes. Any errors cannot be blamed on him. The more Zhu Jie thought about it, the more it made sense. If he exposed Su Zi, wouldn't he be able to make beautiful women look at him differently? Even if the girl surnamed Chen wasn't good enough, it wouldn't be bad to date the girl named Xu Jiayu. That Xu Jiayu was probably also deceived by Su Zi, that's right. That's it. The more Zhu Jie thought about it, the more he felt that he was the reincarnation of Di Renjie and Sherlock Holmes, so he walked up to Su Zi and Chen Rong. "Hey, it's really fun. I went to study abroad in junior high school, and I couldn't even get together with my classmates. Students from abroad are also classmates." As the two were talking, they suddenly felt a shadow blocking the light on their side. I looked up and saw it was Zhu Jie. Chen Rong was not going to tolerate him, so she blurted out, "Move aside, you're blocking my light." Zhu Jie's momentum was broken by Chen Rong's shout. He stepped aside obediently, feeling that Chen Rong seemed to have a special relationship with Su Zi. He rolled his eyes and said, "This classmate is wearing a nice watch. Can I see it?" "Can." Su Zi took off his watch and handed it over without saying a word. "Isn't it just a watch worth more than 500,000 yuan? Even if this broken watch is dropped or smashed, what's the big deal? At most, the manager can send it home." This time, the manager of Baidar Paley also left Su Zi's phone number and address, and promised that when there are new products, they will be sent to Su Zi's home for him to choose first. So Su Zi didn't care at all. When Zhu Jie saw Su Zi like that, he thought it was fake. He also had a blank par watch on his wrist, worth 120,000 yuan, which he treated like a treasure, and his girlfriend would not let him touch it. Su Zi just took it down and threw it over. What does this mean? This watch is not worth much. But Zhu Jie didn't think that there was actually another possibility, that is, Su Zi didn't care about this little money. But in Zhu Jie's opinion, he felt that it was impossible and simply passed that possibility. However, Zhu Jie took Su Zi's watch and looked at it from left to right. He just thought it was beautiful, elegant, handsome, and cool. Compared with his own blank par watch, he wanted to smash it. This fake thing is so real. Do the counterfeiters have this skill nowadays? Zhu Jie was also depressed. If you say that the quality of a grade clothing is almost the same as the genuine ones, that's fine, but this is a watch. It requires technical content. After Su Zi threw the watch to Zhu Jie, he ignored it and continued chatting with Chen Rong. "Hey, just chatting is boring. You're not drinking? Does that count as dry? I mean, let's play something, how about truth or dare?" Su Zi wanted to laugh when he heard this. This game was not difficult for him. He just had to keep drinking. He wouldn't get drunk anyway. To be honest, why should I tell you? Har har. The more Zhu Jie looked at it, the more unsure he became. He took his watch, stood up and went to find the squad leader. Suzy had no intention of calling him. Even if he took the stone and ran away, Suzy would probably wait until the party was over before calling the police. It's not a big deal, it's just a few $100,000. Do you think this watch is real? Mr. Zhu, are you kidding me? I don't understand this. The squad leader stared at it in amazement, thinking that the watch, from its design to its quality, was full of mechanical beauty. Besides cars, watches are what men love. The more I looked at it, the more I liked it. I took a photo and searched it on Baidu. Oh my god, it was 560,000. This is like wearing a house on your hand. The squad leader felt his hand going weak as he held the watch. He was afraid that he would drop the watch and not be able to afford the compensation, so he quickly returned it to Zhu Jie. Aren't you saying it's a lie? How can a primary school teacher like him have that much money? Maybe his wife bought it for him. The more the squad leader spoke, the less confident he became. At this time, one of the squad leader's followers interrupted and said, I have an idea. I recently picked up a girl who works at the counter at Baidapali. Why don't we just ask her to come over and take a look? What are you waiting for? Call someone. A watch worth hundreds of thousands of dollars was taken away by someone and not returned for a long time, but Suzy still had the leisure to brag to Chen Rong. Chen Rong was also secretly amazed. Isn't your watch still in that person's hands? Aren't you in a hurry? No rush, I've already informed my wife. She knows I'm having a class reunion today, so I can go back later. Chen Rong also rolled her eyes and asked, is this what I meant? She was also curious, why would someone who wears a watch worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and wears a few luxury brands worth only tens of thousands of dollars ride an electric bike? He seems to take good care of his electric bike, which is really hard to understand. Chen Rong is not an ordinary person, she can naturally tell the good from the bad and the real from the fake. She owns Patek Philippe, Vacheron Constantin, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Piaget, Rolex and so on. Generally, I wear a watch based on what clothes it matches, including the color combination. There are also a lot of famous watches in the watch cabinet. Naturally, I have this kind of vision. Xu Jiayu and Wang Yuan were also chatting over there. I am increasingly unable to understand Suzy. He's just handsome, but unfortunately I have no money, so I'm destined not to be with him. Xu Jiayu didn't respond, thinking that even if you have money, Suzy may not be with you. He is not the kind of person you think. Although Xu Jiayu didn't say much to Suzy, her temperament could be felt. Xu Jiayu also clearly felt that Suzy was different from when he was in school, and that change was very attractive. Chapter 24, It's really embarrassing. Not much time passed, time flies when we are chatting. The door of the box was pushed open, and a girl with makeup on flashed in. This is the squad leader's follower. Come and see if this watch is real. I'm drunk too. You called me out just for this. I didn't even have my makeup done. You rushed me out like crazy and I thought there was something urgent. The squad leader's attendant was also anxious and said, take a look first. Really? That depends. So professional, you can tell just by looking at it. Isn't that nonsense? I just got this watch from the warehouse. The person who bought the watch is still sitting there. I saw him as soon as I came in. Zhu Jie, the squad leader, and his followers were all frozen. Zhu Jie looked at the monitor with a bit of resentment, and said with his eyes, you said it was a primary school teacher. I seemed a bit rude just now, I'm going to split. The squad leader responded with his eyes, I never expected that either. The squad leader followed and said, look carefully, don't make mistakes. TSK. I don't like it if you say that. The follower didn't give the boyfriend any face. It was obvious that the relationship between the two was not particularly close. You think he's just an ordinary looking guy like you? Even though he was sitting in the corner, I saw him the first time I came in. How could I be wrong? Now the squad leader's followers were also torn. After a while, Zhu Jie walked over with the watch, and his attitude became very humble and he said, I'll return the watch to you. It's very good. It's alright, Minato and Dai. Zhu Jie was also stunned. Damn, I almost got beaten up by my grandfather when I bought a blank par. He said I was a spendthrift, but the price is only 1/5 of yours. You're still talking about making do and wearing, you're really pretending to have no friends. But what Suzy said was indeed true. A person with a net worth of billions, Wearing a watch worth tens of thousands, isn't it the same as a normal person wearing a 99 digital watch? It's just a matter of putting it together and wearing it. There is nothing to be modest about. Well, you know what, Suzetti's mindset changed really quickly, just like a native rich man. Who would have thought that a few days ago, he was still a poor teacher who had to ask for big discounts when ordering takeout? The follower's girlfriend also came over to say hello. Her attitude made the follower stunned. He thought, does his girlfriend have such a gentle and considerate side? Hasn't this girl always been the sassy girlfriend? Suzy was neither humble nor arrogant, and his attitude was very calm and humble. He did not show any dissatisfaction with Zhu Jie's language just because of his rude remarks and the fact that he used his watch to do something unknown. Suzy's idea is very simple, either don't do it, or kill you. If he doesn't kill you, then he can save face. With Suzy like this, the class monitor and the others also felt bored. The classmates all focused their attention on Suzy. What was the fun of this game? It soon dispersed. Goodbye, old classmate. Suzy also said goodbye to his classmates one by one, but he also knew that it was unlikely that there would be such a gathering again in the future. Even if there was, he would not come. Chen Rong said, "Hey, why don't I see your electric bike? I came here in my classmate's car, and he will take me home later." "Oh no." Chen Rong pulled Suzy away, ignoring Wang Jungwo who was waiting for Suzy like an invisible person on the side and said, "I'll take you there." Chen Rong's car only has 2 seats, and Suzy could smell the fragrance when he sat in. After all, it was a girl's car. "I heard from them that you have a wife. Is that true?" Suzy looked at Chen Rong and felt that she was not trying to trick him. This shows that Chen Rong really didn't know that Suzy was Yu Qian's husband. Otherwise, this woman's acting skills are too exaggerated. It's no problem for her to win the Best Actress award. Yes. That's a shame. It's nothing to regret. You are so beautiful, how can you lack suitors? Chen Rong glanced at Suzy and laughed, "I feel sorry for you. If you were not married, you would be qualified to pursue me. Maybe I would give you a chance." Suzy also had a dark face, "You are too narcissistic." However, looking at the seat belt passing diagonally through Chen Rong's body, it outlined her curvy figure to the fullest, coupled with her fair skin, slender neck, delicate facial features, and thick hair. Chen Rong does have the capital to be narcissistic. There were few cars on the streets late at night, and they soon arrived at the entrance of Suzetti's community. "Thank you." Suzy thanked him and got out of the car. "Why?" Chen Rong called Suzy. "What's wrong?" In fact, whether you think marriage is a reason to imprison a person or not, some people may get married, but their partner may not be the true love of their soul. For example, the Kung Fu Emperor only knew what true love was after he met Li Ji. Suzy smiled and said, "I don't understand these, they are too complicated. I only know that if a man betrays another woman for you, he may also betray you for another woman. The Kung Fu Emperor and others are just individual cases, not worth referring to." Chen Rong nodded, looked at Suzy deeply and said, "Goodbye." Then the car drove away. Suzy looked at the car going away and was puzzled. It turned out that girls who have been abroad for a long time are very open-minded. They spoke so bluntly even though they knew that the man was married. Fortunately, Suzy is a loyal man. When I got home, today was the opposite of the past. In the past, Suzy was always at home while Yu Qian was out socializing. Yu Qian came out of the bedroom wearing a 2-piece pajamas with a facial mask on her face. It was the middle of the night, and if Suzy hadn't been mentally prepared, she would have been scared. "It's so late, are you catching up with your female classmates? Oh, you look pretty good in this outfit, very energetic, I've never seen you wear this before. Yeah, my first love is still here. Do you regret marrying me? Don't be afraid to speak the truth boldly. I'll give you a chance." Suzy sighed and said, "I really regret it." Yu Qian was joking, but when she saw Suzy like this, she couldn't help but panic. She didn't like Suzy at all. If it wasn't for her family, if it wasn't for her dedication to her career, she didn't want to let love take up her time. How is it possible to marry Suzy? But for some reason, Suzy seemed to have become a different person these days, and the way the two of them got along seemed different from before. Yu Qian felt that her attention seemed to have shifted a little from the company to Suzy. Even when she encountered difficulties, she would inexplicably think of Suzy, but she would just smile in the end. What could that fool Suzy do to help her? But Suzy can indeed warm her heart. Now that she suddenly heard Suzy say that he regretted it, how could Yu Chen not feel flustered? Chapter 25. Something happened to Xiaoyu. However, Yu Chen would not show any expression on her face. Okay, you regret it, I'll grant your wish, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. What do you mean by 8 o'clock? Suzy was also stunned. He said to Chen, what are you talking about? I mean I regret attending the class reunion. I might as well make soup for you at home. Get lost. You did it on purpose. Yu Chen could still see a mischievous smile underneath Suzetti's pretended look of shock. Har har, nothing can make me give up on you. As he said that, Suzy bent down and picked up Yu Chen in a princess hug. Let me go. I want to let go. With that, Suzy rushed into the bedroom carrying his wife. Hate it, you haven't taken a shower yet. Oh. Then Suzy kicked the bedroom door shut with a back kick, and the room was filled with spring. Nothing happened that night. The next day, Suzy touched his aching waist and thought, no wonder the ancients said that the land of pleasure is the tomb of heroes. Suzy, who is already a master of Wing Chun, still cannot resist the invasion of female beauty. In the past, Suzy and Yu Chen had a bad relationship. When they occasionally had sex, it was only a brief experience. That night was the first time that their passion was ignited. Suzy felt sore in his back, and Yu Chen was not in much better condition either. Is there any way in the system to pay taxes without hurting your body? I think you deserve to have the sex skills I have written about you. Okay. Yu Chen didn't know that her husband, who was a cheater, was already prepared to cheat in this matter as well. She drove her Volkswagen CC to the company, and her body was still sore. This was what happened after not exercising for a long time, and it happened to both men and women. But thinking about the bone-melting and soul-stirring passion that night, I couldn't help blushing. Boss Yu, what's wrong? You seem a little different today. You look much prettier. Really? Yu Chen happily accepted the flattery from her secretary Wen Xiaomi. But the next second, she immediately got into work mode. And Suzy was going to pick up the car. This way, he wouldn't have to bother two people for one thing, and he could also take care of Wang Jingwo's business at the same time, so Suzy called Wang Jingwo to send him over. Sure, I can pick up the car. Oh, you've been driving for several years. I'm a professional, how can I compare with you? My waist is broken from working out every day, I sit for too long. Suzy glanced at the large teacup placed next to Wang Jingwo's seat, which contained tea leaves and a lot of wolfberries. Just drinking this stuff is useless. I'll teach you a few moves that can strengthen the kidney qi and balance the yin and yang. Brother, you even understand this? When they arrived at the Auto City, Suzy picked up the car. Wang Jingwo had nothing to do, but he actually wanted to see what car Suzy picked up. After seeing this, Wang Jingwo became more determined to cling to Suzy. Fuck, this is a QQ80, worth more than 1 million, a luxury car. Bro, can I get in and sit in it? Just sit down. Isn't a car for people to sit in? That's what I mean. Suzy didn't care either. Wang Jingwo got into the car, touched this and looked there, his eyes almost popping out of his head. Brother, your interior is too exaggerated and luxurious. Wow, it's all top of the line. I mean, if we have this money, we can buy a car worth more than 3 million. Wouldn't it be cooler? I just want to keep a low profile. After hearing this, Wang Jingwo slapped his forehead and said, yes, I forgot about this. Brother is different from us. We want the whole world to know everything. Wang Jingwo also couldn't let it go. When he drove this car on the road, he no longer needed a girlfriend. Seeing that it was almost time for class, Suzy had no time to be polite to Wang Jingwo. He sent him down and hurried back to school to prepare for class. When they arrived at the school, Old Man Sun from the message room opened the door for Suzy. Teacher Su has also bought a car. This car is good and durable. My second son has a similar one, which costs about 100,000 yuan. Suzy smiled and nodded without explaining. Everyone in the school thinks this is the best. Suzetti's classes are still popular among students, but their vice president asked him to talk less about useless knowledge points, saying that this would interfere with students' thinking. I kept spraying him until school was over and then I let him go. In fact, Su Ziyi was not very satisfied with this. Cramming education cannot produce talents. Why could only Zhuge Liang be chosen as the smartest person in the three kingdoms? This is totally unscientific. After being criticized by the principal this time, Su Ziyi began to think about why he couldn't start his own school. I have money anyway. While thinking, Su Ziyi walked towards the office, but inadvertently saw Cheng Xiaoyu sitting in her seat through the window. Su Ziyi walked into the classroom and said to Cheng Xiaoyu, "Why don't you go home after school?" Ever since old Cheng and Su Ziyi got together, the family conditions have improved a lot. Cheng Xiaoyu's complexion is obviously rosier than before, and she wore casual clothes today. Although the clothes are not very expensive, they are no longer the same school uniform as before. "Teacher Su, I don't dare to leave." "Why?" Su Ziyi was also wondering, could it be that the teacher was targeting Cheng Xiaoyu? No, it's impossible. As for Cheng Xiaoyu, except that her family is poor, she is weak, and she is not very good at physical education, she has no disadvantages. She is not biased in any subject, and she is among the top students in every grade. He has always been ranked in the top 10 in the whole grade. Which teacher doesn't like such a student? Someone bet on me at the school gate. Su Ziyi was about to ask in detail when a girl rushed in. "Xiaoyu, they are really at the door, there are dozens of them." Su Ziyi quickly pulled the girl over and asked, "What do you mean? Who wants to block Cheng Xiaoyu?" "Oh my god, Teacher Su, why are you here?" The girl didn't expect Su Ziyi to be here and was shocked. After calming down, she told the whole story. It turned out that after Cheng Xiaoyu's family conditions improved a little, her food was provided and she no longer wore school uniform, which naturally showed her elegance and refinement. Unexpectedly, she was noticed by a gangster outside the school. He must be with Cheng Xiaoyu. Cheng Xiaoyu naturally refused, but she didn't expect that the grandson would call a group of people to block her. Su Ziyi was also at a loss whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that he was the one who caused this trouble. If he hadn't worked for Lao Cheng's family conditions would not have improved. Without improved conditions, Cheng Xiaoyu would still be wearing the same washed-out school uniform. That way it would be hard to attract the attention of the gangsters. Don't be afraid. This is a society ruled by law. The teacher will accompany you. Originally, Su Ziyi wanted to drive Cheng Xiaoyu away. Anyway, the gangsters couldn't see Cheng Xiaoyu in the car. But he could only send Cheng Xiaoyu once, and he couldn't pick her up every day. Even if she accepted it every day, Cheng Xiaoyu still had to go out alone sometimes, and solving this problem had to start from the source. Chapter 26. Are you a teacher or a martial artist? So Su Ziyi also made up his mind not to drive away with Cheng Xiaoyu, but to go out directly with Cheng Xiaoyu. Cheng Xiaoyu is relatively simple-minded and listens to her teachers in everything, especially Teacher Su, who cares for her like an older brother. So Cheng Xiaoyu pushed the bicycle and Su Ziyi followed her. When he arrived at the school gate, through the iron gate, Su Ziyi had already seen a bunch of shamats squatting on the roadside of the school. Each of them had carvings of dragons and phoenixes. Some had fish tattoos on their bodies, while others had mantis shrimps printed on their chests. In short, the atmosphere is filled with corruption and none of them look like a good person. However, there was a boy who seemed to be still negotiating with that group of people. Su Ziyi heard the boy say from afar, "You guys are going too far. I protect number 3 middle school. Do you want to save my face if you squat at the door? Who do you think you are? Our Master Kuan is here, do you have the right to speak?" The gangster next to him laughed. The boy said, "Young Master Kuan, right? Let me tell you, people call me a fool, but my brain is not working well. If I really fight, my fists won't recognize anyone." Young Master Kuan is a thin boy, and Su Ziyi doesn't he know why others would accept him as the boss. Wearing tight pants, loafers, and earrings, she looked like a duck in a nightclub. Young Master Kuan exhaled smoke and said, "You still have a bad brain, as if no one has a good brain. You must have watched too many movies." The girl who accompanied Cheng Xiaoyu explained that young Master Kuan's family is rich and powerful. The boy he beat up last time was seriously injured and admitted to the ICU. He was given a critical illness notice, but his family gave him a mental illness certificate, and he was released soon. Evil young man. Su Ziyi understood as soon as he heard it. This kind of person must not be allowed to have anything to do with Cheng Xiaoyu, as that would ruin this girl. At this time, Kuan Shao saw Cheng Xiaoyu coming out, and immediately jumped up and said, Xiaoyu, Xiaoyu, I love you. Come with me into the woods, and I will give you everything. Promise him, let's be together, let's be together. A group of bad boys were making a fuss. Suzy stood up. Everyone, disperse. This is a school, not a mental hospital. It's outrageous that so many demons are running wild here. Kunming looked Suzy up and down and said disdainfully, Who the hell are you? How dare you control me? Suzetti's face changed and he stepped forward and slapped him. Kuan Shao was beaten so hard that he turned around in a circle. He was still a little dazed. Why did that gentle-looking male teacher just come up and beat him up? Aren't teachers supposed to just talk instead of using physical force? He was so angry that he was shaking with anger, but there was nothing he could do to them. The beating was not over yet. Suzy grabbed Kuan Shao's ear and said, You have a life without a lesson, right? Well, today I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your family. It's free. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Let go, let go. Fuck you, let go. Suzy was very cunning. He did not pull young Master Kuan's earlobe, but only pulled his earring, which touched the flesh. Young Master Kuan has always been the center of attention since he was a child. For the sake of his father, there have always been people flattering him and trying to please him. When did he get his ears pulled after being slapped in the face? He was spoiled by his mother since he was young, and was afraid that his father would get angry and want to beat him, but he would let it go as long as his mother pleaded for him. I didn't expect to be beaten by a young teacher in front of so many people today. Doesn't he Kunming have any regard for its reputation? You're swearing and you still want me to let you go. When Kuan Shao's followers saw that someone dared to tamper with him, they immediately surrounded Suzy. Let go of Master Kuan, do you hear me? A young man who looked like he had been trained punched Suzy. Suzy didn't even dodge and just punched him straight away. Bang! Ouch! The boy's wrist was bent at a strange angle, and the pain made his voice louder than Viter's. Teacher who teaches music, was tuning the piano in the classroom when she suddenly heard a shout. Her eyes lit up. Their voice was so penetrating, what a good talent. The other boy was very insidious. He took out an iron rod from behind Suzy and tried to launch a sneak attack. Suzy grabbed Kuan Shao's ear, took a step back and crashed into the young man's arms, so the raised iron rod naturally couldn't be brought down. Suzy was very insidious, and used the elbow hammer. It looked like he was taking a step back and bumping into the young man's arms, but in fact, his elbow was raised, and the tip of his elbow hit the opponent's tanjong point. The young man touched his chest, and sweat the size of soybeans rolled down his forehead due to the pain. Let go of Master Kuan. Seeing that Suzy defeated the two leading horses in Kuan Shao's hands in a row, the others could only rush forward. Next, it's Suzy's turn to perform. He held Kuan Shao's ear with one hand the whole time and didn't let go. He fought with the bad boys with only one hand and beat them till they were pissing and shitting. Fuck, the teacher is an expert. By this time, young Master Kuan was already somewhat numb from the pain, and his eyes were filled with tears. He cried, Stop hitting me, my ears are going to rot. Only then did the bad boys stop. In fact, they had no choice but to stop. Although Suzy showed mercy, there were still some who were able to fight, except for one who was on the periphery and could not even shout. The others were in so much pain that they wanted to roll on the ground. My legs, why can't I move my legs? They are broken. What happened to my hand? Hum. There are also those who cannot speak. At this time, the siren sounded and a police car drove over. Fuck. You, the teacher, beat someone up and called the police. That's so rude. The bad boys wanted to run, but many of them had clumsy legs and were powerless to run, so they only managed to run a few legs and were fine. Who called the police? The policeman asked as he got out of the car. I. A delinquent boy who was as thin as a bean sprout raised his hand and stood up. Young Master Kuan wanted to dig a hole and crawl into it, so he brought a bunch of people to the school gate to block people, but he was beaten up and called the police. He really can't afford to lose face like this. From now on, there will be no such person as young Master Kuan on the road. What's going on? Only then did Suzy let go of his hand and said, These people came to block my students. I was also forced to do so. This is a serious situation. The older of the two policemen frowned and said, Then you can't hit people so hard. The young policewoman stuck out her pink tongue and thought, is this a teacher or a martial artist? How can he fight so many people by himself? Does he think he is a man? It's nothing. I just took off their joints and put them back together. Susie said this as if to prove something, and walked up to a bad boy. The boy hugged his legs, and when he saw Susie coming, he was so scared that he wanted to run away, but he couldn't. Don't move, it will be quick. Susie grabbed his ankle and exerted force, and heard a cracking sound. The bad boy let out a cry. It really doesn't hurt anymore, it's amazing. Next, Susie helped those bad boys to straighten their bones and quickly solved the problem. Chapter 27, The Prodigal Son Returns. Susie put the joints of the bad boys back on. There was basically only a slight soreness, which did not have much impact. As for young Master Cohen, the only thing that happened was some bleeding on his earlobe and a big red palm print on his face, but he had no other injuries. For this thing, if I go for a physical examination, it won't even be considered a minor injury, and it doesn't amount to a criminal case, it's just a civil dispute. The old policeman said, no matter what, hitting someone is wrong. Teacher Sue, just apologize. Susie shook his head and said, why are you police officers trying to smooth things over every day? You are helping the bastards to come to our school to block our outstanding students. Can't I fight fire with fire? An apology is definitely not enough, but paying for the medical expenses is fine. Young Master Cohen yelled, fuck you, you have to apologize today. I'll have to let the cops, oh no, the police, take you to the police station. Humph. Young Master Cohen was so embarrassed. He was slapped in the face and hit as if it was free. His ears were pulled as if he was scolding his son. He will never be able to come to the territory of number 3 middle school again. I want to act like a rogue now. I'll use the police's power to get back some face. In the future, I'll just stay at home and play King of Glory, and don't come out and embarrass myself. The old policemen are more steady and focus on mediation. If they take everything too seriously, they will be very busy. There are hundreds of thousands of people in the jurisdiction, and only a few people in the police station can handle it. It seems that many policemen are fat and bloated, but in fact, it is not because of overeating, but because of overwork. Shut up, or I'll take you back for a few days for disturbing the peace. Seeing that he couldn't use the police's power, young Master Cohen just shut up. Susie took out his wallet, took out a few hundred yuan, threw it at Cohen Shao's face, and said, use it to buy medicine. Although all payments are done electronically now, Susie likes to carry some cash with him. In the past, he was afraid that his phone would run out of battery, or be lost, or that he would have unpaid bills or other emergencies that would leave him with money but unable to use it, so he used it for emergencies. Now it's just for showing off. Last time when he beat the vegetable vendors in the market, Susie got the feeling. Young Master Cohen's face turned green. It's a slap in the face, who are you insulting? If he picks up this money, how will he survive in the underworld? Young Master Cohen struck a pose and was about to express his determination that wealth and status should not lead to debauchery, when several of his younger brothers came over to pick up the money. He picked it up and said, thank you, Teacher Sue. Damn it. Young Master Cohen wanted to go berserk. He pointed at the bad boys angrily and said, Hypey, you guys. Leave a few for me. I also need money to see a doctor. Seeing that the matter was resolved, the old policeman casually said a few words and prepared to leave. The female police officer whispered, Master, why does Teacher Sue not look like a good person? He is too arrogant. The old policeman shook his head and said earnestly, a great man once said that if you want to do a good job, you must first distinguish between major contradictions and minor contradictions. As long as he does not disrupt social order, why should you care about him? At this time, the girl next to Cheng Xiaoyu happily put away her phone and said, Teacher Sue is so handsome. I just uploaded it. Maybe it will help me gain a lot of followers. Cheng Xiaoyu is more introverted. After a long pause, she said, this isn't a good idea. Teacher Sue hasn't agreed to this. It's not a big deal. Wouldn't it be better to let him become an internet celebrity? Not good. Cheng Xiaoyu said softly, and when she looked up, her classmates had already walked away. After what Suzy did, he estimated that young Master Cohen would not be able to cause trouble again in the short term, and no one would be willing to listen to him, and his prestige was completely destroyed. But even so, Suzy still planned to remind Lao Cheng to pick up his daughter after evening self-study if he was free. If Lao Cheng was not free, Su Ziyi planned to do it himself, since it was on his way anyway. Young Master Kuan was so angry that he stole his father's card and found a gang leader. It is said that Brother Guang is very wild, and as long as you pay him, there is nothing he can't help you with. As a result, Master Kuan sent Su Ziyi's photo to Brother Guang. Brother Guang went up and slapped him hard. Are you kidding me? Is this person someone you can afford to offend? However, Brother Guang only taught him a lesson for more than 10 minutes because Master Kuan gave him a lot of money. Kuan Shao's head was swollen like a pig's head, and he collapsed on the sofa, feeling that his life was very gloomy, as if he had offended a big boss for no reason. This reminded him of a plot in a certain movie where a big boss pretended to be a pig and ate the tiger, and worked as a teacher in a school. Oh my god, this kick hit a brick wall. Later, young Master Kuan gave up the idea of going out to hang out. Seeing that her son was so well behaved, his mother bought him an Alienware computer to play games at home. A few days later, young Master Kuan was staying at home watching short videos, and he came across a video of himself being slapped, having his ears pulled, and having money thrown at his face by Su Ziyi. The rhythm of the whole video editing is brisk and the layers are clear. From the beginning, Kuan Shao is showing off his power and strength with a large number of people, to Su Ziyi beating them all up by himself. There is no boring moment, especially Kuan Shao's devilish screams, which triggered a frenzy on the internet. In just a few days, the click rate has risen to more than 10 million. Many netizens commented below. This is acting, right? The script is poor, the leading actor's acting is too exaggerated, and the martial arts moves are not graceful. However, the villain's acting is good, especially his screams. TSK, it's like a pig being slaughtered. It can't be so realistic without 3 or 4 years of practice. Har, this villain is kind of cute. Did you notice that there's a pretty girl in the background? I'd like to give a thumbs up to the above. I noticed it, too. Her eyes are always on the male lead. Her concern is obvious. She has good acting skills and looks very pure. She reminds me of Liu Fei back then. Kuan Shao became so popular that it was said that Stephen Chow even asked him to play a role of a man who squeals like a pig after being beaten in his new movie. Later, Kuan Shao started live streaming and got on the right track. Su Ziyi had no idea that he had created an internet celebrity with just a slap. Chen Rong was quiet for a few days and only sent messages to Su Ziyi on WeChat, but Su Ziyi really wanted to know what Chen Rong was doing. This is related to whether it is possible to obtain information about Chen Rong's dealings with his wife. Su Ziyi felt like he was a bit like Infernal Affairs. At this moment, Su Ziyi was not idle either. He had already arranged for Uncle He, waiting to find Chen Rong's flaws and catch them all in one fell swoop. Judging from the way Chen Rong acted, she was quite wealthy. The system finally gave out Chen Rong's information after working for half a day. Judging from the length of time, it was quite difficult. After Su Ziyi studied Chen Rong's information, he found it to be quite tricky. Chen Rong is 27 years old. She graduated from a prestigious foreign university with a major in finance. She has worked at Goldman Sachs and Wall Street and has extensive work experience. She can be said to be an elite among the younger generation. He currently manages an investment company and has investment rights. He can easily withdraw billions of funds to play with, and they are in US dollars, not RMB. It can be said that he is very wealthy.